Marvel, it starts when it links with a great clock of the Super God Academy. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 426 Dormammu's Invasion. Angel Yan raised her head and looked into the air. There, a huge black shadow appeared, and behind the shadow was a huge head with a pair of eyes on the head emitting scarlet light. What a powerful dark energy! Who is this person? Angel Yan frowned and summoned the king's order again. Sister Yan, Angel Leng, Angel Zhu and other 4 angels all came to Angel Yan at this moment. They all sensed the power of the black shadow that suddenly appeared, so they gathered around Yan at the same time, so that in case of an accident, they could cover Yan's departure as soon as possible. He's Dormammu, the monarch of the dark dimension, Ancient One said, and at this moment, she had already flown in front of everyone, floating there, confronting the black shadow. Ancient One, I didn't expect that you would use the power of these foreign races to fight against me now, Dormammu sighed. Although he had never been to the Super God civilization, he knew the intelligence of the Super God civilization. This time he invaded the Earth on such a large scale, and chose to come when the most powerful force of the Super God civilization, the Lord of the Divine River, was not there, because he had already reached a cooperation with the Hades God Zisson. The Hades God Zisson held Li Qingyun in another universe, and then Dormammu invaded the Super God civilization and cut off Li Qingyun's retreat. When the plan succeeded, Dormammu could control everyone in the Super God civilization, and use these people who meant a lot to Li Qingyun as a threat to make Li Qingyun surrender and hand over the powerful power in his hands. Although they are foreigners, they are in the same mind as us. They are willing to protect the peace of our world, which is completely different from you who only want to rule and destroy the real universe. Ancient One would not be bothered by Dormammu's ridicule. On the contrary, when she saw the current achievements of the Super God civilization and saw these angels fighting with the gods to protect their world, she knew that although these people came from the outside universe, they were also worthy of recognition. HMPH, what's wrong with being ruled by me? At least under my rule, many people can obtain eternal life, such as you and your students. I am willing to give you eternal life, Dormammu snorted coldly, and then said. Give us eternal life? Do you mean to become a dark creature that is neither human nor ghost like Caecilius? Dormammu's tone was full of disdain. As long as you can live forever, is it really that important in what form you exist? Dormammu asked back. Of course, Ancient One answered affirmatively. At this moment, all the magicians of Camartage behind Ancient One also nodded silently. They all stood on the side of Ancient One, and they all had the same idea as Ancient One. Dark magicians like Caecilius, who followed Dormammu wholeheartedly, finally became dark creatures that completely lost their freedom and were controlled by Dormammu at will. No magician wanted to see such a result. Foolish, Dormammu said, and a huge hand suddenly stretched out from the shadows and slapped the entire Camartage. Ancient One took the lead, and a huge magic shield was deployed by her, pushing it directly into the sky. Seeing this, the other magicians also began to cast magic, transferring their magic energy to the magic shield deployed by Ancient One, further expanding and strengthening the scale of the magic shield. A magic shield that was enough to protect the entire Camartage appeared directly in the air, blocking the huge palm. Boom! The palm and the magic shield collided with each other, and powerful energy burst out instantly, causing ripples in the surrounding space. Dormammu's hand quickly dissipated after colliding with the magic shield. Although he now showed his figure and could launch an attack, he still had not entered the real world. The barrier that maintained the entire real world still existed, and the magic seals of the 3 temples were still there. Although Dormammu can use the power of the god of the underworld, Sifon, to allow himself to appear in this posture, he mobilized countless dark monsters to attack the earth through his dark magic, but his attack could not last. You can bear it for a while, can you still withstand my attack? After Dormammu finished speaking, he opened his bloody mouth and a red energy light wave bombarded Camartage again. This time, although the magic shield was still resisting, it was directly shattered after resisting for a moment. Even the Ancient One was hit by this energy and retreated more than 10 meters back. Seeing that the light wave that broke through the magic shield was about to attack Camartage, a large number of magicians were about to be killed. But at this critical moment, a huge silver shield appeared in front of everyone, and it directly blocked the light wave shot by Dormammu. Rumble. A huge collision sound broke out. Dormammu's attack was so strong, but even if the shield produced a violent explosion, it still steadily blocked all the energy impacts. What kind of shield is this? It can actually block my attack. Dormammu stopped attacking. He looked at everything in front of him in shock, looking at the shield that blocked his attack, and the angel behind the shield who was directing the shield to block his attack. Angel Cloud Shield, the one who blocked the attack was naturally Angel Yan. This shield was specially made for Angel Yan by Li Qingyun during the battle with the Celestials. Li Qingyun also prepared several powerful weapons for Angel Yan, such as Silver Wings and Judgment Angel, which Angel Yan used and was good at in the Super God universe. Facing Dormammu's attack just now, Ancient One and his men could not bear it. If Dormammu's light wave fell on Kamartaj, it would inevitably cause the entire Kamartaj magician army to collapse. Therefore, Angel Yan chose to take action and use her Angel Cloud Shield to block Dormammu's attack. The intelligence says that in your so-called super god civilization, there are several people who can compete with the Celestials head-on. You should be one of them, right? Dormammu had received very detailed intelligence before his invasion. The intelligence said that several people had been able to fight against a Celestial when the Celestials came to attack the solar system. Anyone who could block his attack must be someone who could compete with the Celestials. The Angel Yan in front of him must be one of those people. Chapter 427 Dormammu and the God of the Underworld Sith joined forces. It seems that you know a lot. Angel Yan looked at Dormammu coldly. She still did not show the slightest fear of this dimensional demon from outside the universe. Although you can fight against the Celestials, my power is much stronger than that of the Celestials. Do you think you can really fight me alone? Dormammu is a dimensional demon, a powerful existence that controls a dimensional space outside the universe by himself. The entire multiverse is under the influence of his dark magic. It is just a group of Celestials in one universe. There is really no big threat in front of Dormammu. Therefore, although he would find it a bit tricky to fight against the Celestials like Angel Yan, he would not be afraid at all. Why are you talking so much nonsense? If you have the ability, just keep coming. Angel Yan held the king's order and was ready to continue to fight against Dormammu. But she also realized at this time that with her own strength, she might not be able to fight against Dormammu in front of her. She began to secretly transmit the situation here back to the floating fortress. She needed the floating fortress to make a new round of arrangements and prepare in advance. At the same time, she also sent information to Li Qingyun's microcosm. She wanted to tell Li Qingyun what was happening in this universe. Li Qingyun controlled the microcosm and gave several key people the authority to enter the microcosm. Although Li Qingyun has now arrived in other universes, Angel Yan can still do it if he only uses some means to pass some information to the microcosm. After all, the dark plane space that Li Qingyun has newly opened up, which is independent of all universes, is also in the microcosm. This dark plane space is like the dimensional space occupied by those dimensional demons. It can be connected to all multiverses at the same time, as long as there are methods and means to connect. In the Illuminati universe, Li Qingyun is fighting with the Scarlet Witch controlled by the Hades god Siphon. The status of the two now seems to be 50-50. The attack of the Hades god Siphon is fierce and strong, but Li Qingyun has never suffered any harm. Li Qingyun received the news from the small universe very quickly, and the arrival of this news also made Li Qingyun frown. Disperse. Li Qingyun pushed his hands to both sides, and in just a moment, all the chaotic magic energy that originally surrounded him disappeared. Siphon, it turns out that you are planning to join forces with Dormammu to invade the real universe together. Li Qingyun looked at the Hades Siphon who was hiding behind the Scarlet Witch, and a little anger appeared on his face. Haha, you actually knew it, the Hades Siphon laughed. He had been attacking Li Qingyun continuously, but he did not use his top power. Originally, it was because his real purpose was just to delay Li Qingyun and create an opportunity for Dormammu. You dimensional demons originally had no connection with each other, and you should have looked down on each other. How come you actually did something like uniting with each other? Li Qingyun said. He knew this in advance, so he did not expect that Dormammu and Hades god Siphon would act together. Before he came, he just arranged for Li Zai to protect Wanda. You can suppress the entire team of gods by yourself, and you can be recognized by the living tribunal. If I want to deal with you, I really don't have the confidence to rely on myself alone. Hades god Siphon said. They, the dimensional demons, really don't like each other, Because they are already the top existences in the universe, and they are the existences that control the powerful multiverse power. But sometimes, when a new threat appears and they reach a common interest relationship, they will naturally unite together. This is the case between Hades' god Scython and Dormammu. Scython's goal is to deal with Li Qingyun, because Li Qingyun stole his chaos magic, and he is constantly using his chaos magic as a basis to become stronger. Dormammu's goal is the real universe. He wants to return to the real universe and control more power. With a common goal, they naturally hit it off, and then today's situation happened. The underworld god Scython used the Scarlet Witch to invade the real universe, and then he opened the access to the real universe to Dormammu through the Scarlet Witch, so that Dormammu can release his power to a greater extent in the real universe. At the same time, the underworld god Scython also used chaos magic to help Dormammu summon a large number of magical creatures, so that these magical creatures can assist Dormammu in attacking Kamartaj and the 3 temples on Earth. As long as the 3 temples are destroyed and Kamartaj, the magician's base, is destroyed, Dormammu can truly invade the real universe, and then he will be able to release all his power. At that time, Dormammu only needs to give the underworld god Scython an opportunity to allow the underworld god Scython to directly descend into the real universe, and the two of them can return to the real universe of this multiverse in a complete state. Only in this way can they restore their true power. If the two of them join forces, they will not be afraid even if the living tribunal comes here. Naturally, they will be more confident in dealing with Li Qingyun. You have a beautiful idea, but do you think your plan can really be realized? When Li Qingyun said this, the energy in his body began to be further stimulated. He finally decided to use all his strength to get rid of the chaos magic god in front of him in the shortest time. As long as I can hold you back long enough, with Dormammu's preparations, we will definitely be able to take you down, the Hades Scython said, but he was actually uncertain in his heart. Because until now, he has not received the news that Dormammu has successfully invaded the real universe, but Li Qingyun already knows the plan. This means that the super god civilization in the universe over there is still capable of resisting Dormammu's invasion, and can also find a way to send a message to Li Qingyun. On their side, Li Qingyun knew the details, and he would definitely start to explode next. If Li Qingyun used all his strength, he would not be able to delay Li Qingyun for a long time in his current state where he could not exert his full strength. Because the Hades god Zithorn was not really coming to this universe now, he was just using the Scarlet Witch's body to cast powerful chaos magic. Chapter 428 The reinforcements have arrived. Now, it's all about time. Li Qingyun, Scython, Dormammu, and the strong men of the super god civilization all understood this. Li Qingyun began to burst out with all his strength and attacked Scython. Scython sensed Li Qingyun's strength and knew that the opponent was much stronger than he was now, so he began to choose to defend instead of forcing an attack. Li Qingyun knew his purpose, but the opponent was Scython after all, and it was unrealistic for him to kill him in one go. Now he could only hope that the people of the super god civilization could hold on for a longer time. On the super god civilization side, Angel Yan sent a message to Li Qingyun, telling him the specific situation, but she also understood that Li Qingyun did not return immediately, which meant that there was no way for him to come back now. Brother Monkey, Qingyun should also have important things to deal with now. We have to find a way to delay as much time as possible. Angel Yan sent a message to Sun Wukong. If she had called Sun Wukong before, she would have just called him Monkey, but now that Li Qingyun and he are brothers, he has directly made Sun Wukong the temporary head of the super god civilization, so Angel Yan naturally followed suit and called him Monkey Brother. The husband sings and the wife follows. Dormammu's power is stronger than that of the general group of gods. I'm afraid there are only a few people in our team who can fight him. Sun Wukong was in the castle, looking at the information sent back from the front line, and was also anxiously thinking about the response strategy. Let me go. Wanda entered the communication channel. In fact, she had been paying attention to the situation since the beginning of the matter, but Izai, who was with her, had been persuading her and reminding her of her current situation. However, seeing that the situation on the battlefield had deviated, Wanda was finally a little impatient. Qingyun specifically ordered Izai to guard you, so naturally you are the most important now. You should stay in the floating fortress with Izai. Angel Yan directly denied Wanda's idea. At this time, if Wanda encounters any accidents again, their super civilization will be in even greater trouble. If necessary, I can go there. The voice of the god of death Karl came. This second strongest person in the super civilization has not taken any action in this battle so far. If it really comes to last resort, I can only ask you to stop your work and go to support. Although Sun Wukong did not want to break Li Qingyun's original plan, he had to consider the priorities of everything. Brother Monkey, we have extra manpower here. Let Liang Bing or Kesa go to Kamar Taj for support. There was a message from Hela. Hela went to London at that time. Because she only brought Thor, Sif and the three warriors of Asgard, Sun Wukong also asked Morgana and Kesa to go with her. In this way, there are actually 4 extremely powerful people in London. Hela's strength is barely enough to fight against the Celestials. Since Thor became the king of Asgard, his strength has also improved a lot. Morgana and Kassadin are even less important, they are definitely powerful gods. Therefore, although they have fewer people, their combat power is the strongest among the 4 teams. Sun Deshan, we are waiting for the Shen mechas to report. Just as Sun Wukong was thinking, Shishi appeared at the entrance of the hall with a large group of Shen mechas. This powerful mecha army that had been dispersed by Li Qingyun to guard various life planets has finally mobilized all its manpower to rush back. It's just in time to come back. Divide the team into 3 teams immediately and go to New York, Hong Kong and London, Sun Wukong ordered, and the Shen mechas behind Shishi also divided into 3 teams at the first time and flew quickly in 3 directions. As for Shishi himself and the remaining small number of people around him, they naturally had to stay in the floating fortress. Now that most of the superheroes and super soldiers in the floating fortress have gone to the battlefield, someone needs to be responsible for defense here, just in case. Liu Chuang, Kesa, Liang Bing, after the Shen mecha arrives, go to Kamar Taj immediately to assist Yan in dealing with Dormammu. Sun Wukong quickly sent a message to the 3 people on the front line. They are in the super god civilization, and they are capable of fighting against the strong men of the celestial god group. If the 3 of them go to assist Angel Yan, it will definitely greatly reduce the pressure on Kamar Taj. Of course, Hela, Captain Marvel, Thor and others are barely capable of fighting, but they still have to stay in their respective battlefields, and they also need someone who can calm the situation in their positions. The flying speed of the Shen mecha is very fast. After they arrive at the battlefield, Morgana and others go to Kamar Taj even faster. After all, they can directly use the wormhole to go there instantly, without the need for the Super God Academy to coordinate and mobilize the wormhole energy to allocate. They can start by themselves. Therefore, almost 10 seconds after Sun Wukong's order was issued, Morgana, Kesa and Liu Chuang had already arrived at Kamar Taj. At this time in Kamar Taj, Angel Yan was leading a group of angels to launch a continuous attack on Dormammu, which distracted Dormammu's attention, preventing him from attacking Kamar Taj smoothly, and making it impossible for Dormammu to fully enter the real universe. Dormammu was entangled by Angel Yan and others, and there were a large number of magicians from Kamar Taj behind him. He was already very troubled and angry. Now he saw 3 more people coming suddenly, and the huge head was emitting a more dazzling red light. Just a group of ants, what can they do if more come? Dormammu mocked. Your attacks are like tickling to me, and as long as you are hit by me once, all your previous efforts will be in vain. After Dormammu finished speaking, he opened his bloody mouth again and spit out more a ball of white light, shooting towards everyone. Void barrier, Kesa rushed forward, opened his hands, and directly cast a purple barrier in front of everyone to block the light. Star Killer Axe, Liu Chuang roared, and a huge red axe appeared in the air, slashing down fiercely at Dormammu's head. This blow was the strongest power that Liu Chuang could summon now, which was the axe that had split the Sun Star in half more than 10,000 years ago in the Super God universe. The full-strength blow of the No-Star God of War was an existence that could make the gods of the Super God universe feel fear. At this moment, the axe was chopped out with tremendous power. Chapter 429 of Fallen Demon King. Liu Chuang used all his strength to chop Dormammu's head with an axe. Dormammu's head, which was originally just a part of the energy projected in the real universe, was directly disturbed by the powerful energy and became distorted. What a terrible destructive power! Dormammu looked at the battle axe that chopped his forehead in shock. His head began to retreat continuously at this moment. Similarly, his power was also quickly retreating from the real universe to his dark dimension. Dormammu is now teaming up with the god of the underworld, Sithin, and forcibly invading the real universe with the power of the two. He can only continuously transmit energy, but cannot really come in. Although he was not actually hurt much by the axe chopped by Liu Qingyun, his power was forced back a lot at once. If he wanted to break in again, it would probably take a lot of time and huge energy. Is this the combat power of your super god civilization's trump card? There are actually 4 people with such power. Dormammu looked at Kesa and Liu Qingyun, who had just taken action, plus the Angel Yan who had been restraining him in front, and Morgana who stood behind these 3 people and had not yet taken action, but was obviously more calm than the 3 of them. These 4 people are at the same level at first glance. Trump card? The real trump card has not yet come, Kesa said, and the trump card she was talking about was naturally the Death God Karl. In the absence of Li Qingyun, the Death God Karl is definitely the strongest one in the super god civilization. Does that mean that you have stronger people who have not come to participate in the battle? Dormammu looked at Kesa with some confusion. Then, he immediately reacted. By the way, the woman named Wanda hasn't come yet. She is a chess piece that Sithin has placed in this universe. Although her power is not as strong as Sithin's, she is indeed very powerful, Dormammu said. In his opinion, the only warrior of the super god civilization who might be stronger than the 4 people in front of him is naturally the Scarlet Witch. Wanda, don't answer, and don't think about the information about Wanda. This guy is trying to read Wanda's situation from your emotions through his ability. Kesa was about to answer, but Morgana, who had been silent, interrupted her directly. When Kesa heard Morgana's reminder, she immediately reacted, and then quickly adjusted herself, and immediately concealed the information that was about to be revealed in her mind with a void. Dormammu turned his head and looked at Morgana. He had long guessed that Morgana should be at the same level as the Angel Yan and others in front of him, and now his guess has been confirmed. Moreover, Morgana's experience and vision are obviously better than the other 3, because when the situation just happened, it was clear that no one else felt it, only she noticed it at the first time and reminded Kesa to be on guard. Although Kesa was able to react in an instant and successfully blocked his prying, which surprised him, Morgana's perception made him more concerned. What a powerful woman, she can actually detect my magic, it's just some dark energy reading methods, which is not a special method. Morgana didn't care. She had been read by Kesa many times in the past, and she had a lot of experience. Although Dormammu's methods were different from Kesa's, Morgana could still sense it easily. I can feel the evil in your heart. Why don't you turn to me? I promise you that in the future you will be the most noble monarch in my dark domain, except for me. Dormammu sensed the kind of decadence and darkness hidden in Morgana's genes. One man below 10,000? But I, the Demon King Morgana, have always been the Supreme King, not someone else's subordinate. What are you talking about? Aren't you Li Qingyun's subordinate now? And looking at your current appearance, your status in this civilization is not even in the highest column. Dormammu has precise intelligence. In today's super god civilization, Li Qingyun is the main god, that is, the leader. Below Li Qingyun is a monkey named Sun Wukong. Although his strength can only be ranked among the top 10 in this civilization, and may not even be in the top 5, he is the temporary commander of the super god civilization, so he should naturally be the second in command. In addition, there are 4 mistresses in the super god civilization. They do not hold direct positions, but their status is naturally needless to say. Yes, in terms of status, I am indeed not high in the super god civilization. Morgana did not hide it at all, and openly confirmed Dormammu's guess. But I am just a guest in the super god civilization. I am here to vacation with them. I am not one of them, so I am not their subordinate. I am still me, and I am free, Morgana said, and her words made Dormammu not know what to say for a while. I am just a guest, so my status is not high, so it is reasonable. After all, which force would let an extra staff person take a real high-level position in the force? In this case, why don't you come to me as a guest, and I will give you the same status and respect as me? Dormammu hesitated for a moment, and then found a reason to win him over. Well, Morgana deliberately delayed for a while, as if she was thinking, but the answer she gave in the end was still so straightforward. I'm not interested. Morgana knew the situation facing the super god civilization now. Dormammu is a monarch from the dark dimension. He is a dimensional demon god that exists beyond the gods. Although the super god civilization has now gathered a large number of people, it seems that Dormammu has been suppressed on the surface, but in fact they have not found a way to kill Dormammu directly. Look at the powerful axe that Liu Qingyun just chopped down on Dormammu's head, but the result was only to force the opponent to retreat a little, and even the dissipated power was quickly restored as time went by. Therefore, before they are fully confident that they can deal with all this, they have to delay time as much as possible and wait for Li Qingyun to return. Morgana is here to argue with Dormammu in order to buy more time. You are playing tricks on me. Dormammu is a smart person. Seeing Morgana's answer and her appearance, he naturally guessed a rough idea. How can I be playing tricks on you? It's obvious that you want to win me over, Morgana shrugged and said. This look of I am obviously playing tricks on you, and you can't do anything to me made Dormammu so angry that he was fuming. Chapter 430 His eyes thoughts. Damn Birdman, Dormammu was angry, and the huge hand appeared in the space again, slapping towards Morgana. Hand? I have one too, Morgana said, and raised her right hand directly. A huge black iron claw appeared in the air and blocked Dormammu's giant hand. Demon Claw. Li Qingyun equipped Angel Yan with weapons, and naturally equipped others with weapons. After all, these weapons are also the key to greatly improving their own strength. The preparations made when fighting against the Celestial Group are still playing a role in these battlefields. Li Qingyun's idea is actually very accurate. Only when the whole is strong can this super god civilization be truly strong. If the celestial computers being developed by the god of death Karl can all be completed and equipped to Angel Yan, Hizai and Morgana, the overall combat power of the super god civilization will rise to another level. After all, the strength of super soldiers with celestial computers is much different from that of those without celestial computers or sharing the same celestial computer. Because in the system of super god technology, computing power represents the power it can control. The higher the computing power support, the more energy they can call from the universe, and the stronger the combat power they can exert. Dormammu looked at the scene in front of him where the demon claw was summoned and the hand that hit him was directly blocked. His expression was also shocked. What a super god civilization, just a part of it, but it has such a powerful force. Dormammu was shocked. He had been shocked again and again by the power that the super god civilization had erupted today. The combat power of these guys was much stronger than he had expected. These are just his subordinates here. They have such a powerful combat power. I am afraid that the Lord of the Divine River that Zizan is facing is more difficult than what I am facing now. Dormammu knew in his heart that Zizan, the god of the underworld, must have been in a difficult battle at this moment. Although it was a pleasure for him to see the god of the underworld, Zizan, being defeated, they were now on the same front and had a common goal. At this time, they had to consider the overall situation. Therefore, he had to speed up and defeat the people in front of him faster. Only when he successfully defeated all the enemies and truly released his power into the real universe and gained more powerful power, could he go to help Zizan, the god of the underworld, and defeat the powerful guy Li Qingyun. Don't be in a daze here, let's join forces and attack this big guy, Morgana reminded. Hearing her voice, Angel Yan and others all started to move. They waved their weapons and attacked Dormammu. They all knew that now facing a strong man like Dormammu, they needed to do their best and cooperate with each other sincerely. Although they were very strong, their strength only looked strong. In fact, Dormammu completely surpassed all of them in terms of overall level. It's just that Dormammu is now in a state of forcibly breaking through the dimensional wall. His energy transmission is affected by the entire real-world magic circle, so it is greatly weakened. Otherwise, even if they join forces, they have no possibility of fighting against Dormammu. And now, taking advantage of the fact that Dormammu's power cannot be fully erupted, and taking advantage of such a huge disadvantage in him, they join forces and launch continuous attacks, which should be able to prevent Dormammu from completing the invasion. So, the Devil's Claw, the Angel of Judgment, the God-killing Battle Axe, the Spear of the Void, the weapons of Morgana, Angel Yan, Liu Qingyun and Casa, are constantly erupting with more powerful power, and began to continuously attack Dormammu. Dormammu is also in an extremely difficult stage in the face of such a powerful and continuous attack. His power has just been replenished through special channels, and it will be consumed by Angel Yan and others in an instant. If he can't get replenished, the attack he launched can't do anything to these four people, so although he has been trying hard, he can't actually move forward at all. Karl, have you completed a series of celestial computers that you are developing? His eye was on the floating fortress. She did not participate in this massive war. She was sitting in the yard with Wanda, looking after the three children. But his eye had been paying attention to everything on the battlefield. She knew the situation of Morgana and the others at the moment. The celestial computing group has been basically completed, the death god Karl replied. At the beginning, he was actually confused. Why did Li Qingyun let him develop a celestial computer, and the first one he developed was a brand new celestial series for his eye to use? Later, he slowly realized that the people around him often said that Li Qingyun actually had the same relationship with his celestial king, his eye, as the angel Yan and the others. Moreover, Li Qingyun's feelings for his eye seemed to be a little different from those of others. Although he had no name or status, he had a strong preference for him. In addition, his eye was the most powerful one among all the super soldiers. It was estimated that only Carl himself and Morgana were likely to be stronger than her. Under such circumstances, it is not surprising that Li Qingyun would give priority to building a space-based computing group for his eye. Then, give me the authority of the space-based computing group. Although I cannot go to participate in the battle in person, if I launch an attack through Xingming, with the support of celestial-level computers, the power will not be any less than if I go there in person. His eye has already thought that her ability may be more useful at this time. As the god who is best at defense, she has been guarding the Mellow Heavenly Court for thousands of years and protecting the safety of Mellow Heavenly Court. Therefore, she has studied many combat methods that can produce the best effect, even if she does not go there in person. For example, clones, such as Xingming, that can reach a control range of 15 light years. Understood. I will give you the control authority of this space-based computing group. Death Carl was too smart. His eye just opened his mouth and he already understood his eye's intention, and immediately began to operate. In just a few seconds, the calculation of the entire space-based computing group had been launched, and the authority to wipe the air was directly handed over to his eye. Chapter 431, Helpless Dormammu. The space-based computing group of the God of Death Carl was originally developed with reference to the technology of integrating the large clock with a space-based computing group of his eye. His eye has been using the space-based computing group for tens of thousands of years. No one knows better than his eye how to operate the space-based computing group, how to go online in the fastest time, and how to play the best effect. So, in just a few minutes, this space-based computing group, which has not even completed all the supporting equipment, was successfully connected to all tracks under the control of his eye, and quickly integrated into the communication system of the entire super seminary. Then, in the floating fortress, a silver stream of light flew out and flew directly in the direction of Kamartaj. Just when Dormammu wanted to try his best to try again, trying to disrupt the continuous attack rhythm of Morgana and the others, in order to further integrate more power into the real universe, this stream of light hit Dormammu's forehead like a god. At this moment, Dormammu's huge head shook more violently. The opportunity he had finally found to reverse the situation was completely lost in an instant. Where is this attack coming from? Dormammu was about to collapse. Why is it that every time he just adapted to the rhythm of the battle and tried to fight back, a new accident would appear and destroy his plan? Star Fate. Morgana looked at the silver stream of light that appeared on the battlefield and immediately recognized what was in the stream of light. It's his eye. Only she can control Star Fate to such a degree and exert such power. Angel Yan couldn't help but get excited at this moment. Xianji King Hizai is worthy of being the most powerful guardian of their mellow heaven. Even if she is now in another universe, even if she is now in the super god civilization, she is still the guardian who is in control of the situation and wins thousands of miles away. My space-based computing group is barely online. Next, I will control Xingming to support the entire battlefield. You can appropriately draw more people to come to your side to assist in the battle. Hizai's voice came, and it was transmitted to Angel Yan and the others, and also to all the combatants in the channel. On the battlefield, the most important thing is intelligence information. They are now a whole, and the battlefields are connected to each other. It is necessary to be prepared to adjust the rhythm of the battlefield at any time. At this moment, after receiving Li Zai's message and seeing Xingming suddenly appear on the battlefield where they are, and easily cutting the huge magical creatures that threatened the battlefield into two halves, everyone immediately understood that what Hizai said was right. With Hizai's participation in the battle and Xingming, a magical artifact that can dominate all battles at a super long distance, their combat personnel arrangements can be more flexible. Danvers, you are faster and your combat power is stronger. Go to Kamartaj now to support. Stark made a prompt decision and immediately gave an order to Captain Marvel, the strongest on their battlefield. Got it. Captain Marvel did not hesitate. She turned in midair and flew directly to the west, aiming for Kamartaj. Hulk, Scott, now it's up to you two to dominate the battlefield. You have to take on the enemies in front of you. Stark looked at Hulk and Ant-Man on his left and right. Hulk's brute strength and strong body, as well as Ant-Man's ability to transform into a giant, can play a greater role in the frontal battlefield. Just watch, this is the time when we can finally show a role, and we will never let you down, Ant-Man answered seriously, while Hulk just roared angrily, then rushed out directly, running towards the dimensional cracks where those magical creatures rushed out. On the battlefield in London, Thor also raised his Stormbreaker and flew towards Kamartaj. As for Hong Kong, although their pressure has also dropped sharply, there are no people on their side who are suitable for fighting Dormammu. People like Thornton and Rui Mengmeng are more suitable for playing their advantages on the battlefield in front of them. Therefore, they did not send anyone to support. However, with the addition of Thor and Captain Marvel, a new force has been added to the battlefield of Kamartaj. Damn, how many people do you have? Dormammu is about to collapse. How could such a powerful warrior be easily captured in the super god civilization? It was troublesome enough to deal with Angel Yen, Ancient One and Doctor Strange. Later, Morgana, Li Qingyun and Kesa came, making Dormammu's situation extremely bad. Now, not only is there a super long-range attack, Hizai who can attack him from time to time, but also can support the other three battlefields at any time, so that Captain Marvel and Thor can also spare time to support. Dormammu is now facing a group of people alone, and there are 6 of them who are definitely equal to the Celestial group. These 6 people are naturally Morgana, Angel Yan, Kesa, Li Qingyun, Ancient One and Hizai who provides super long-range support. As for Captain Marvel, Thor, and Doctor Strange, their strength is not much different from that of the high-level angels like Angel Chase, and they are not particularly threatening to Dormammu. But they have a lot of people. Moreover, Captain Marvel and Thor do not need to store energy for a long time to launch a big move like Judgment of the Skyblade to threaten Dormammu like Angel Chase, and their own strength is already very strong. Sit down. I tried my best. Dormammu has given up, because he found that it is impossible for him to pass such a powerful group of people and directly enter the real universe. Even with the help of the god of the underworld Sithoun, he had a lot of advantages at the beginning, and gathered many magical creatures to launch this massive attack. But now the entire battlefield on Earth has been controlled by the super god civilization. The opponent has not even used all his strength, and Dormammu has been trapped and can't move. A large number of magical creatures were blocked at the exit by the warriors of the super god civilization. They couldn't spread out completely, and the advantage of numbers could not be brought into play at all. Originally, when facing this situation, the super god civilization still needed to contain a lot of high-level combat power, but now, with the return of Shen Mecha and the blessing of Hexy's ultra-long-range weapon, the maintenance of high-level combat power is no longer necessary. Moreover, there are more people in the super god civilization, gathering towards the Earth. Thanos and his accuser team, the Guardians of the Galaxy, Goshai Anzan's fighting group, Sovereign's interstellar fleet, etc. Dozens of life planets outside the super god civilization Earth are now gathering their elites to support us here. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 432. Now that you're here, you want to leave without leaving something behind? Haha, it looks like your other side's offensive plan has completely failed. Li Qingyun smiled when he received the latest battle situation from Angel Yan in the Illuminati universe. He originally thought that only if he rushed back to support could he solve this crisis. But now it seems that even without him, the current strength of the super god civilization is enough to fight against a dimensional demon. Dormammu's invasion this time was jointly carried out with the god of the underworld, Sithoun, allowing most of the power of Dormammu's Hell Seal to descend on the real universe and release a steady stream of magical creatures through the dimensional cracks. Without the assistance of the god of the underworld, Dormammu would not be able to do this. And now, even with such a big advantage, Dormammu's sudden attack on the Earth still failed. The first wave of attacks was forcibly carried by the super god civilization, and then Dormammu began to exert his strength. Angel Yan, Morgana, Li Qingyun and Kesa joined forces to bear Dormammu's full impact. Now, Shen Mecha has joined the battlefield, and Hizai uses the Star Fate to remotely control the battle situation of the entire Earth. More strong men can be drawn out to go to Kamartaj to deal with Dormammu. Even if Dormammu is very powerful, he can't do anything in this situation when facing such a beating. The most important thing is that the super god civilization has not yet used its full strength. Wanda did not make a move, Carl is still continuing his celestial computer development, and Sun Wukong is still guarding the floating fortress. In addition, the super god civilization is still gathering troops in the back, and the super god civilization can be said to be getting stronger and stronger. As for Dormammu, his own strength is powerless in the face of the current situation. The role of the existence of magical creatures will be completely suppressed as the super god civilization Legion continues to arrive. At that time, the high-end combat power that was originally dispersed can further draw more people to support the main battlefield of Camartage. How can Dormammu bear all this? Dormammu, this rubbish. I have clearly let out the most difficult people to him, and prepared hundreds of thousands of magic creatures to support him in the battle, but how come he still lost? The Hades god Sithan also received Dormammu's message at this moment. Because Dormammu has begun to withdraw his troops, the magic creature army has stopped going to the real universe, and Dormammu himself has also withdrawn. A war in which the dimensional demon invaded the real universe with great momentum, but it still lost without the participation of cosmic gods such as the Celestial God Group and the Living Tribunal. And the loss was so unsurprising. He is not a rubbish, but my family members are just stronger. Li Qingyun smiled. It didn't matter how he fought in today's battle. What mattered was that he saw the true potential of the super god civilization. Such a brilliant and powerful super god civilization is not a mirage that he barely supported alone. It has already formed its complete scale inadvertently. Asshole, the Hades god Sithan was very depressed at this moment, but things had developed to this point, and it was useless for him to be angry. Dormammu could no longer provide resources, and without the worries of the universe he originally lived in, Li Qingyun could focus on dealing with himself. This Lord of the Divine River, who could easily force back the Celestials and was respected by the Living Tribunal, was not strong enough to compete with him alone. But if he was asked to give up like this, he would be unwilling to do so. After all, he had prepared for a long time this time, and in order to realize such a plan of simultaneous attack, the god of the underworld, Zizan, paid a lot of price to help Dormammu. Otherwise, with Dormammu's situation, in the face of the powerful sealing magic constructed by magicians of all generations, Dormammu would not be able to appear in the real world to attack Camartage. You can only be helpless and furious now, Li Qingyun said, his hands opened at the same time, and the power in his body began to operate rapidly. The time platform began to run at high speed, and the four forces of void, anti-void, reality gem and chaos magic started to operate one after another, and then connected in series to form a whole. This gathered power soon appeared in Li Qingyun's hands. This would be Li Qingyun's strongest killer move to launch an attack, and it was a special attack move against Hades god Zissan. Your chaos magic can rewrite the probability of facts, but the power I master will completely surpass the universe itself and control all the rules. Even if it's only a quarter of my power, it's comparable to you. Now that the four powers are combined, can you withstand my attack this time? Li Qingyun said, and the condensed four-color energy made Hades god Zissan stunned for a moment after seeing it. How is it possible? The ability to rewrite the rules in this universe is at most two types, reality gems and chaos magic. How could you master four types at once? Hades god Zissan saw the energy in front of him and was able to immediately analyze how powerful the power contained in this energy was. And he was very sure that what Li Qingyun just said was absolutely true. Li Qingyun really had the ability to control the laws 4 times more than himself. Although this 4 times does not refer to the level of energy, but only the number. When the number is large enough, the effect that can be achieved by mutual blessing will be greatly improved. In addition, Li Qingyun's own strength is not weaker than that of the Hades god Zisson. Now that the Hades god Zisson cannot fully release his power, Li Qingyun can use his own power without scruples. Under the interaction, it is very disadvantageous to the Hades god Zisson. Humph. Today's matter ends here. Next time, I will definitely bring more powerful power to give you a fatal blow. While the Hades god Zisson was speaking, his body began to become increasingly empty. He had planned to withdraw from the battlefield. He had already lost the opportunity to fight with Li Qingyun. Now that Li Qingyun's strength has surpassed him, his ability can even restrain him. It is meaningless for him to stay. Come when you want, leave when you want. Li Qingyun mobilized his most powerful energy this time. He must take down the Hades god Zisson, at least the power he released at this moment. My real body is not here. Even if you want to kill me, it is impossible, the god of the underworld, Zison, said, and his energy was still rapidly dissipating. However, the next moment he suddenly felt that the power of the chaos magic that was supposed to be constantly dissipating suddenly became strong again. Chapter 433, The Seriously Injured Hades God Zison. Have you forgotten that my power is to change the rules of the universe? Li Qingyun said, and a burst of green light suddenly released from Li Qingyun's body. This green light is far less powerful than the rule power that Li Qingyun had previously condensed, but its appearance gave Li Qingyun a good auxiliary effect, allowing the rule power released by Li Qingyun to transcend time to a certain extent. At this moment, Li Qingyun was using the power of the time gem to make the moves he released affect the entire chaos magic transformation process within a certain period of time. Are you rewriting the flow of time and then releasing my chaos magic in reverse? The Hades god Zison looked at the scene in front of him and immediately realized Li Qingyun's true intention. Smart, I just want you to force out all the strongest chaos magic you released, Li Qingyun said. His hands suddenly grabbed forward, and the rule power that was originally condensed in his hands began to form two small black holes. The two black holes emitted extremely strong pulling force, and the surrounding chaos magic that was constantly getting stronger began to be quickly swallowed into the black holes. You are devouring my chaos magic. Are you trying to forcibly take my power? There was no need for Hades Zison to guess, because Li Qingyun was already doing so. Li Qingyun was forcibly using the superior characteristics of the power of rules that he had mastered to forcibly absorb the power of chaos magic that he used to modify the probability of the universe into his body. Many years ago, Li Qingyun was able to copy the chaos magic in Wanda's body, and then completely separated it from the source of the chaos magic of Hades Zison, and finally merged it into part of his own energy. Now, Li Qingyun has had this experience once, and has a similar but more powerful power to suppress chaos magic. After the absorption is completed, it can be forcibly converted into his own energy. It is definitely possible. It's a pity that I haven't been able to locate your specific location, otherwise I would have killed your body today. Now absorbing part of your power is just for interest, as Li Qingyun said. The speed of the black hole swallowing in his hands began to accelerate further. The chaotic magic energy that originally filled the entire universe was visibly thinned in just a few seconds. At this rate, it would not take more than a few minutes for all the chaotic magic power originally released by the Hades god Zison to be completely swallowed up by Li Qingyun. If this were to happen, the power of the Hades god Zison would probably be directly weakened by 80% to 90%. No, these powers are all mine, and no one can take them from me, the Hades god Zison said, and then began to quickly mobilize his own original power, trying to absorb the surrounding chaotic magic back. But these actions of his could not play much of a role under Li Qingyun's swallowing at this moment. The speed at which the Hades god Zison recovered energy was far slower than the speed at which Li Qingyun absorbed it. Ah, Li Qingyun, I must avenge you for today's revenge, the Hades god Zison wailed, and then quickly retreated to the rear, his figure moving away at the fastest speed. Since he had no way to take back the chaos magic absorbed by Li Qingyun, the best way he could choose was to leave the real universe as quickly as possible. As long as he left the universe, the part of his power would immediately follow him back. After returning to the chaos dimension where he was, Li Qingyun naturally had no way to take away the chaos magic. However, during his retreat, Li Qingyun had already absorbed a lot of chaos magic. When the god of the underworld Zison completely escaped and returned to his chaos dimension, his power was less than 30%. Even including the power that he had not been able to dispatch, his strength was less than half of his heyday. This war that he took the initiative to provoke, at the cost of his original payment, not only failed to kill Li Qingyun, failed to cause huge losses to the super god civilization, but also seriously weakened his own strength in the end. This battle can be said to be the most failed battle that the god of the underworld Zison had fought in billions of years. Li Qingyun, I admit that you are very powerful, but no matter how powerful you are only one person, and your position is different from that of all other dimensional demons. You are destined to have countless enemies. Next time, I will definitely gather more helpers and gather more powerful forces to take you down in one fell swoop, the Hades god Zison roared, but at the moment, he did not dare to really attack Li Qingyun again, and he did not even go to the dark dimension to settle accounts with Dormammu. Because at this moment, His strength is less than half of the original. If he goes to Dormammu's dark dimension and really starts fighting, he will definitely not be Dormammu's opponent. Maybe the remaining half of the power will also be taken away by Dormammu. If Dormammu is more ruthless, he may be completely finished. Therefore, before he can recover his vitality, he will not look for anyone, and he will not even contact anyone from the outside world. He blocked his own chaotic dimension, and made it impossible for all outsiders to find him or break into his chaotic dimension. Only in this way can he ensure his own safety and survive this most dangerous period. On the other side, Li Qingyun completed the absorption of the chaos magic of the Hades god Zison. In his body, he began to quickly transform the power of these chaos magics and merge them with his own time platform. The time platform originated from technology, and now it is beyond technology. Li Qingyun integrates more energy into it, and the power of the time platform becomes more and more powerful, and the power that Li Qingyun can control becomes more powerful. If it is said that Li Qingyun previously only had the same strength as the Hades god Zison, and was at the same level as most of the dimensional demons, then the current Li Qingyun has surpassed most of the dimensional demons. Moreover, he now has the experience of fighting with the dimensional demons. He knows how powerful these guys who are independent of the universe are, and what kind of combat mode they prefer. In addition, he has two biggest gains. One is that he directly absorbed more than half of the power of the Hades god Zison. Now, in terms of his own energy, he has reached the level of 1.5 demons, and this is just a relatively general comparison. The second is that he saw the power of the super divine civilization he had established. Chapter 434, A Great Victory. Li Qingyun's process of transforming the chaotic magic energy of the god of the underworld, Zison, did not last too long. After just a few hours, he had completed the entire transformation process. During this period, the Scarlet Witch was always encircled by Li Qingyun with a space-time barrier in order to prevent her from being affected by the harsh environment in the universe and dying. Although she already has a powerful cosmic combat power, her body is still a mortal body, and she cannot even survive in the universe for a long time. This is a common strange phenomenon in the Marvel universe, and it is also a phenomenon that their strength is not proportional to their physical fitness. After completing the transformation, seeing that the Scarlet Witch has also awakened, Li Qingyun took her back to Earth. At this time on Earth, all members of the Illuminati and their affiliated superheroes were waiting eagerly. Although they could not go to participate in the previous battle, they could all see the continuous energy changes in the sky. The red energy covering the entire sky, and the shock waves that could make the entire planet tremble from time to time, all made them clearly feel the intensity of the battle. Now, finally seeing the universe become peaceful, and seeing Li Qingyun return with Scarlet Witch, the uneasiness in their hearts finally calmed down. Great, it seems that everything has been resolved. Professor X took the lead and stepped forward. Several other members of the Illuminati also quickly approached, wanting to know more about the situation as soon as possible. It's not completely resolved, it's just that the Hades god Zison was forced to retreat, Li Qingyun said. He didn't think that the defeat of the Hades god Zison this time meant that everything was fine. He understood the principle that a centipede will not die, not to mention that the Hades god Zison was not even dead now, but had lost more than half of his energy. The Hades god Zison. Everyone in the Illuminati looked at Li Qingyun blankly. You can ask Wanda for the specific situation later. I have been here for a long time. Now it is time for me to go home first. After Li Qingyun finished speaking, he casually drew his right hand in the air, and a space crack appeared in front of him. His coming to the Illuminati universe this time was an adventure. Although the purpose was to protect his wife, and in fact it did not cause any losses, such things still need to be more carefully arranged in the future. For example, when it is suspected that his wife may be in danger, she should be directly placed in the small universe or dark plane space for protection. As long as she is in there, Li Qingyun can monitor and protect her at any time. They themselves belong to the space outside the universe. It is impossible for other dimensional demons to find the specific coordinates. Passing through the space crack, Li Qingyun returned to the universe of the super god civilization in an instant, and came directly to the hall in a flash. At this moment in the hall, Sun Wukong and Su Xiaoli, who had just relaxed their tense nerves, were sitting together on the steps in front of the throne to rest. Although Sun Wukong did not directly participate in this battle, he stayed in the floating fortress to guard it, and his heart was also very tormented. As the fighting Buddha, Sun Wukong would rather go to the battlefield to charge. But this time he could not leave because of the responsibilities he shouldered. He had to keep an eye on the battlefields at all times, and could only worry when he saw danger. He also had to keep an eye on every move on the floating fortress, because they were always worried, fearing that someone would attack the floating fortress at any time. After all, before Li Qingyun left, he personally told Izai to protect Wanda, which means that Li Qingyun was also worried about accidents on the floating fortress. Therefore, although Sun Wukong did not go to the battle, his heart was tormented, and he, as the temporary person in charge, was also working very hard. "You kid, you are finally back." Seeing Li Qingyun coming back, Sun Wukong also felt helpless. "Ha ha ha, it seems that this time I have made you, monkey brother, worried." Li Qingyun smiled. He understood Sun Wukong's mood at this time. "If I had known that something like this would happen today, I shouldn't have agreed to your request and become the temporary person in charge. Not only did I not participate in the battle in person, but I also had to watch and worry the whole time," Sun Wukong complained, but the more he understood the difficulty of his current position, the less he would really quit. Because he originally came here to share the responsibility with Li Qingyun. "Brother, I have a heavy responsibility now. Not only am I responsible for the safety of this earth, but I am also the main god of dozens of life planets in the entire super god civilization. I am afraid that the entire universe needs me to protect it now," Li Qingyun said helplessly. "Just think of it as understanding your brother and help me bear more of the responsibility." Li Qingyun said this, but he knew that Sun Wukong would never quit. "Oh, forget it. Who made me recognize you as my brother?" Sun Wukong sighed and shook his head, which meant that I didn't want to do it at first, but for my brother, I should stick my neck out. At this time, continuous fluctuations began to appear in the surrounding space. These were people who were scattered in the battlefields and began to return one after another. The first to return were those who retreated from the Kamartaj battlefield. They were the most powerful group of people in the super god civilization. Their abilities were originally strong, and Kamartaj was the base camp of the mages. After forcing Dormammu back, the magicians of Kamartaj would quickly adjust their defenses and restore the original order. As for the other temples, the magicians of Kamartaj needed to assist in casting the spells to protect the temples, and they also needed to wait for the personnel of the local government departments to come and clean up the battlefield, which naturally required more time before they could withdraw. Angel Yan saw Li Qingyun in the hall and immediately walked forward excitedly. The two looked at each other, and Li Qingyun patted Angel Yan on the shoulder again, meaning that you have worked hard on this trip, and I will definitely compensate you well in the evening. After that, Li Qingyun turned his attention to more people. They all work very hard to protect the super god civilization. As the main god of the super god civilization, they naturally had to be praised. "Everyone, your performance this time was very outstanding. Without you, I'm afraid the super god civilization would have suffered a catastrophe. I'm here to thank you for your efforts." As a leader, such words always have to be said more, because it at least represents Li Qingyun's attitude and represents Li Qingyun's recognition of everyone's efforts. Chapter 435, After being beaten, how can I not fight back? All personnel were withdrawn, and a grand celebration banquet was held in the floating fortress. "Thanos, you fell behind this time and couldn't catch up with the battle." During the banquet, Thornton came to Thanos and patted his shoulder. "No way, I received the news late, and it takes time to gather people. When I prepared everything and rushed back, you had already finished the battle." Thanos and Thornton got along very well. "That's right, you guys are too fast. Quill and I rushed back from the universe at the fastest speed, but in the end we could only catch up to attend your party." Rocket Raccoon also jumped out at this time. He stood on the table, between Thornton and Thanos. "This battle is about time. If we hadn't reacted quickly enough, we might have lost." Liu Chang also came over at this moment. "Speaking of which, Chuangzi, you are so impressive today. Not only did you lead our team to eliminate those magical creatures, but you also turned around to deal with the Dark Lord Dormammu." Thornton's crocodile head actually looked a little envious. He also wanted to be as strong as Liu Chang, but unfortunately his advantage was that he was thick-skinned and strong, which was a close combat. If you were on the battlefield of Kamartaj, he probably wouldn't have been able to cause such a strong attack on Dormammu. "You don't have to be envious, there will definitely be such opportunities in the future," Liu Chang said. "There will be more in the future." Thornton was a little confused. With the character of the Lord of Shen, since Dormammu and the god of Hades Zithan have already attacked us, He will definitely fight back, and it won't be long before he will lead his troops to kill Dormammu's dark dimension, Thanos said. His relationship with Li Qingyun is not as good as Liu Chuang and Thornton, but as Li Qingyun's opponent, he also understands Li Qingyun's character. Li Qingyun has been beaten, so it is impossible for him not to fight back. If we want to fight back, we have to wait until our strength is improved first, right? Rocket Raccoon expressed his opinion. Improve our strength? How can we improve our strength now? On the side, Thor, who happened to pass by, heard their conversation and took the initiative to come over. It should be the development and application of astronomical computers. I heard that the reason why Wang Hexi, the astronomical computer, participated in the battle was because she obtained the support of the astronomical computer's astronomical computing group, which made her so powerful and played a key role in turning the tide of the battle. Stark also came over. He was a researcher at the Super God Academy, and he was also personally involved in the field of computers. It is said that after you super soldiers have the support of astronomical computers, your combat effectiveness will be greatly improved. Is this true? Stark turned his head and looked at Liu Chuang. The strength of super soldiers comes from themselves, but also from the support of astronomical computers behind them. This is no longer a secret in the Super God Academy. As one of the core technical personnel, Stark has now begun to come into contact with these fields. If you have the support of astronomical computers, your power will indeed be much greater in battle. Liu Chuang did not refute this point, because he had astronomical computer support in the past, and Red Star No. 4 was his exclusive astronomical computer. Although Liu Chuang's strength at that time was not as strong as it is now, under the same conditions, with the computing support of astronomical computers, he would be much stronger. Just one simple reason: in the process of energy mobilization, the speed will be much faster, and the energy storage time will be much shorter. That's right, Carl has been developing astronomical computers, and it is said that it is a very suitable upgraded version of the astronomical computers used in your original world, Stark said. He is now more and more envious of these super soldiers. They are growing rapidly and their power is amazing. Although Stark's combat ability is far better than before due to the blessing of super god technology, with the help of flame-level weapons and high-energy rays, he can also burst out with a level of ordinary super soldiers. But he has never become a super soldier, and the power he can exert when fighting with armor is ultimately limited. Retaining a personal fighting style is actually a way to maintain high combat power. Angel Zhu, Angel Leng, Angel Yunyan and others are also walking towards this site at this moment. Now these angels are gradually getting along with super soldiers and superheroes. They are all comrades and companions to each other, and it is more natural to chat. Stark, if I ask you to become a super soldier now, I'm sure you won't be completely willing. Angel looked at Stark coldly and said. Yes, Stark nodded. Although he envied the fighting power of the super soldier, he still liked his iron suit, and he still wanted to live with his family as an ordinary person. Otherwise, with Stark's status in the Super God Academy and his contribution to the Super God civilization as a senior member of the Super God Academy, it would not be difficult to obtain a Super Gene Potion upgrade. After Li Qingyun returned to the Marvel Universe with the people of the Super Gods universe, Li Qingyun actually lifted the restrictions on Super Genes. In other words, in the Super God Academy and the Super God civilization, anyone who has made a certain contribution can adapt the Super Gene through the Super God Academy to make himself a super soldier. However, so far, not many people have obtained super genes. The main reason is that they are not willing to give up their original identities for the time being, and they are not ready to accept the fact of becoming a super soldier. Of course, there are still some who have accepted it, such as several teenagers on Qingyun Star who performed very well, and several scientists on Earth, such as Wang Haiming and Chen Li, who joined the super seminary in the early days. They were not superheroes and did not have superpowers. Moreover, they did not have families, and they did not have family ties or anything like that. They did not have to consider that after becoming a super soldier, their lifespan would be longer, and they would always be young while their relatives around them would gradually grow old. The super soldier gene is only given to individuals, not just one person, but all the family members would rise to heaven. Li Qingyun has never violated this principle. You have not made any corresponding achievements, but because your husband or wife has become a super soldier, I will give you, and even your whole family, the opportunity to become a super soldier. Would that be very unfair to those who have made efforts but have not yet reached the standard? Therefore, Li Qingyun set the criteria, and everyone in the super seminary will abide by this criterion. Chapter 436, Fully Prepared for War. The super god civilization is powerful, but it still takes time to perfect the entire civilization system. Now is the time when the entire civilization is the most diverse. Most of the superheroes with various abilities still retain their original state. They use super god technology to help themselves upgrade further in their respective fields. Instead of everyone completely referring to the main god civilization in the super god universe, all of them become super soldiers. The development of super god civilization continues to strengthen. Ordinary superheroes are constantly strengthening their strength, and super soldiers are also further improving their combat effectiveness. At this moment, Li Qingyun personally went to the research room of the Super God Academy and came to the place where the god of death Karl was. How is the research and development and manufacturing progress of the celestial computer? Li Qingyun looked at the small clock being made in front of him and asked casually. The space-based computing group has completed all the development. The series redeveloped after borrowing the data of the big clock has a computing speed and performance that is more than 30% higher than the original series, the god of death Karl answered, and while he was speaking, in the space not far away, several independent celestial computers started to operate at the same time, and these celestial computers themselves were a whole connected in series. Space-based computing group, His exclusive series. In fact, these remade celestial level systems have completely surpassed their past ones, so why do they still use the original code names to name them? Death God Karl looked back at Li Qingyun in confusion. When people are away from home, they always miss the things in their hometown. At this time, if all the things are new, people will feel uncomfortable, so, directly naming them with the names they used in the past can be a kind of nostalgia. Li Qingyun was completely concerned about the people who came with him from the Super God universe. Whether they were angels or the heroes, they all came from their original universes, leaving behind everything in the past and following him. I understand. Death God Karl didn't say anything more. Anyway, the names and the like were just some small things in his eyes. He just asked out of pure curiosity. There are 5 celestial computer systems left. How long will it take to complete them all? In Li Qingyun's plan, he planned to build a celestial computer for Li Zai, Morgana, Angel Yan, Liu Chuang, Karl and Sun Wukong. At present, only Li Zai's space-based computing group has been completed, and the remaining 5 are still being manufactured. If it is manufactured according to normal means, it will take at least 3 years to complete it, Death Karl replied. 3 years? Li Qingyun listened to this answer and fell into deep thought. Although he knew that the manufacturing process of top-level equipment, such as astronomical computers itself, takes a lot of time. But the current situation is that he has already thought of a plan to launch a counterattack against Dormammu and Hades' god Sithan in a short period of time. If he waits for another 3 years, I am afraid that Hades' god Sithan's condition will be restored by then. Li Qingyun understands the principle of letting a tiger go back to the mountains and raising a tiger as a threat. So it is most appropriate to make up for it when the tiger is weak. Through your ability and the operation of the Void Controller, you can create an astronomical computer out of thin air, but the performance of this astronomical computer is ultimately insufficient, Death Karl said. I understand this. Li Qingyun's ability is naturally known to himself. To use the Void Controller to manufacture a celestial-level computer, it must be manufactured within Li Qingyun's understanding, and to make the performance more perfect, Li Qingyun needs to perfect the simulation of the entire celestial computer in his own mind. However, to achieve this complete perfection, it is the simplest to completely copy a certain celestial computer, but if it is just a simple copy, Li Qingyun does not need to let the Death God Karl to carry out further development. What Li Qingyun wants is to make these celestial computers stronger than they were in the past. If in this process, a manufacturing method that breaks through the current large clock can be found, maybe a more powerful celestial computer can be created. In addition, the manufacture of celestial computers also requires a lot of resources and energy. For example, when Li Qingyun directly copied the Red Star series in the Super God universe, Li Qingyun had already prepared enough resources to provide support for himself before starting. Moreover, the Red Star series is just a low-profile version created by imitating the space-based computing group, and Li Qingyun directly copied the Red Star number 1. Therefore, the functionality of the entire computing group of the Red Star series could not even reach half the efficiency of the space-based computing group at the beginning. This is also the reason why Li Qingyun asked Zhizailin and others to develop their own new generation of celestial computers before leaving the Super God universe. I will mobilize all the resources of the entire Super God civilization for you, and I will also participate in it personally. How much time can this shorten? Li Qingyun has decided that he will speed up the construction of this engineering team. With the current size and development of the Super God civilization, and your strong strength as support, the time may be shortened by 2/3. Death God Karl just thought about it briefly and came up with a rough estimate. Okay, then follow this schedule. 1 year, although it still takes 1 year, it is still much shorter than 3 years. If the Hades god Zissin can really recover to his peak in this year, it at least shows that Zissin is powerful. If they want to take the initiative to attack, the danger may be greater. If this is the case, he will have to evacuate the people first. He is unwilling to let his companions and relatives take risks. After that, Li Qingyun's order began to spread rapidly throughout the Super God civilization. All the people who had gathered at the floating fortress learned all the contents at the first time. These superheroes and super soldiers had already guessed that Li Qingyun would want to launch a counterattack against Dormammu and the god of the underworld, Zissin. Naturally, they had already prepared for this order issued by Li Qingyun. To speed up the construction of celestial computers is the first step of the counterattack. So, everyone started to act at the first time. Those who are good at science and technology go directly to the Super God Academy to participate in the subsequent research and development. And those who are not good at this field are also trying to improve their strength in order to improve their strength for the counterattack that is likely to break out in a year. Chapter 437, This preparation for war frightened the sheer empire. A year will pass quickly. The large-scale mobilization of resources, manpower and energy by the Super God civilization in this year has also attracted the attention of all interstellar civilizations in the entire universe. At the beginning, these interstellar civilizations investigated that a battle with a dimensional demon god had broken out on Earth before. So they all thought that this was the effect of the Super God civilization being stimulated. But over time, they found that this matter was not simple. Because they have learned that the Super God civilization repelled a dimensional demon god head-on when Li Qingyun was not there. This also shows that the power possessed by the Super God civilization is no longer afraid of the so-called dimensional demon god. If Li Qingyun, the extremely powerful lord of the divine river, is present, the dimensional demon god may have to be dealt with by them as soon as it appears. But even in this situation, the Super God civilization is still operating at such a high intensity. This is clearly not because it is afraid of the invasion of some powerful person, but more like preparing for the next war. To be able to make such a powerful force as the Super God civilization take the initiative to spend so much time and resources to prepare for war, then what kind of powerful guy they are going to attack must be. In today's universe, there is basically no civilization that is worthy of being regarded as an enemy by the Super God civilization. Perhaps the only possible one is the Sheer Empire, which was once one of the 3 major empires in the universe and is now the only one that still exists. Dao Jian, do you think this is the preparation to launch an attack on us? The queen of the Sheer Empire is also very nervous now. She is really afraid that the Super God civilization will attack us. Li Qingyun is an existence that can make the most mysterious gods in the universe fearful, and the Super God civilization can even join forces to repel the power of a dimensional demon god. In this case, if the Super God civilization really wants to attack them, they will definitely not be able to stop it. If the Super God civilization wants to attack us, there is no need for such a large-scale preparation. Just send a legion over. Dao Jian has personally witnessed a battle between the warriors of the Super God civilization and the gods, so he knows very well how powerful the Super God civilization is. Then I'd better go to Earth in person. It's time for us to have a formal contact with the Super God civilization. Dao Jian took over the words of the Queen of the Sheer Empire and gave his suggestion. You want to go to Earth in person where the Super God civilization is? The Queen was a little worried. This is the core planet of the Super God civilization. Even compared with the nominal capital star Qingyun star, its defense force is dozens of times stronger. After all, Qingyun star is just a branch of the Super God Academy, and the main people in charge there are only Thanos and a group of young students from the Super God Academy. But Earth is different. Li Qingyun is there. Most of the powerful super soldiers and superheroes of the Super God civilization are there, and the headquarters of the Super God Academy is also there. It can be said that more than 70% of the combat power of the entire super god civilization is all gathered on Earth. When the two armies fight, the envoys will not be killed. I am going there as an envoy. With the current status of the super god civilization and Li Qingyun's identity as the Lord of the Divine River, they should not embarrass me, Dao Jian said affirmatively. Are you sure? The queen relied too much on Dao Jian. It could even be said that her position as queen depended mainly on Dao Jian. Yes, I'm sure, Dao Jian nodded affirmatively. Well, then, you go now, take the queen's order, and go as an envoy. After the queen finished speaking, she directly handed Dao Jian a note. It was a note given by her as a queen, representing her identity as an envoy. Dao Jian took the note, and then turned around and flew out of the palace. With the power of his body, he flew directly into space, flew to the area where the super god civilization was located, and flew to the Earth. On the Earth, Li Qingyun was still researching and developing the last celestial computer with the death god Karl. It was a brand new computer that was completely upgraded and transformed with reference to the big clock. Because Li Qingyun already had the genuine big clock, the title of this computer was Death God. This was a celestial computer to be provided to Death God Karl. Are you really going to give me this celestial computer? Death Karl was actually a little surprised at this time, after learning that Li Qingyun was going to prepare a brand new celestial computer for him. Why not? Li Qingyun asked back directly. This is a newly developed celestial computer based on the big clock. Its performance is likely to exceed the big clock you are using now. Death Karl meant that if he really completed this development, when he mastered this new celestial computer, his power might be stronger than Li Qingyun. You know, they were originally enemies. If your development goes smoothly, then I will upgrade the big clock accordingly later, Li Qingyun said. Moreover, even without the celestial computer, the power I have now, I don't have to worry about you posing a threat to me after you gain new power. Li Qingyun did not say that he trusted Death Karl very much, because that kind of words did not make much sense to a guy like Death Karl who is absolutely rational. Therefore, Li Qingyun directly stated his future response method, and it was his strength that made him fearless of any threat. In fact, Li Qingyun's strength has indeed reached the level of fearlessness of any threat. Not to mention that the god of death Karl has obtained a more powerful celestial computer. Even if the god of death Karl obtains stronger power, it is impossible to threaten Li Qingyun. You know, even if Li Qingyun does not have a celestial computer, he is definitely at the multiverse level. He can fight against the god of Hades Zissing alone, not only defeat him but also directly absorb the power he releases. Now, he can easily control anyone of Dormammu or the god of Hades Zissing. As for the god of death Karl, his strength is only at the single universe level. Even if he has a new celestial computer, his power will only increase slightly, far from reaching the level of Li Qingyun. After all, it is basically impossible for the god of death Karl to further integrate the divine power, magic, etc. in the Marvel universe like Li Qingyun. Because the god of death Karl has long lost his divine body, he is now an illusion, and the illusion is created on the basis of abandoning the essence of life. The reason why Li Qingyun created a new chaotic divine body instead of inheriting the illusion is because he knew this reason long ago. Chapter 438, Envoy? Coming to surrender? Lord Shen, there is an envoy from the Sheer Empire asking for an audience. Shen Mecha walked in outside the research room. For information like this, it would be enough to send a message to Li Qingyun directly through the communication system of the Super God Academy. But this time, the other party came as an envoy. Since it was an envoy, it was natural to handle it with formal etiquette. When the envoy arrived, it was natural to inform Li Qingyun in person, and then arrange whether to meet him. The envoy of the Sheer Empire, Li Qingyun looked at the Shen Mecha with some surprise. The other party's name is Dao Jian, an envoy personally appointed by the Queen of the Sheer Empire. He came with the Queen's handwritten letter and wanted to make friends with our super god civilization, the Shen Mecha reported. Dao Jian. All the information related to Dao Jian immediately appeared in Li Qingyun's mind. This is a very powerful person. In the comics, he is the strongest warrior of the Sheer Empire and a super strong man in the first echelon of the entire comics. If you really compare him, I'm afraid that Captain Marvel and Thor may not be his opponent. The other party just sent an envoy, so there is no need for you to come out and meet him in person, right? Death Karl looked at Li Qingyun and said. Yes, it's just a messenger, but I, a main god, have to go and receive him in person. Of course, it's inappropriate, Li Qingyun nodded and accepted the suggestion of Death Carl. Brother Monkey, there is an envoy coming to the hall, you go and meet him. Li Qingyun directly sent a message to Sun Wukong. Sun Wukong was leisurely eating a peach, and suddenly received Li Qingyun's message, and was also confused. Messenger? Where did the messenger come from? Sun Wukong became a little curious. With the status of their super god civilization now, even if someone from other forces came, there was no need to find someone to receive them, right? For example, when the Nova Empire came, any superhero or super soldier from the super god civilization could be entertained. The messenger of the Queen of the Xia Empire, Li Qingyun, heard Sun Wukong's question and gave a natural answer. Xia Empire? The Xia Empire that is known as one of the three great empires in the universe. Sun Wukong became the temporary head of the super god civilization, so he would naturally learn about many things. Sun Wukong naturally knew which forces in this universe were relatively powerful. The Alliance of Gods in the City of Almighty, the three great empires in the universe, and the Celestial God Group and the Cosmic Observers. Of the three great empires in the universe, the first two were destroyed, and the other was directly annexed by the super god civilization. Now, the only one left is the most mysterious Xia Empire. Is he here to surrender on behalf of their queen? In Sun Wukong's view, the three great empires in the universe have long been a thing of the past. Since the remaining one has come, what else can he do except to surrender and join their super god civilization? Haha, if he comes to surrender, it would be the best, but I think he came here because he saw that we were preparing for war recently and thought that we were planning to conquer the universe, so he came to inquire about the news. Li Qingyun smiled. There was nothing wrong with Sun Wukong's idea. After all, they are strong enough, so they don't care about other forces. However, Li Qingyun has already agreed with the Life Tribunal that he will not take the initiative to expand the power of the super god civilization. Without using military means, a traditional interstellar empire like the Xia Empire will never be easily annexed by others. Prepare for war? If we really want to attack a small empire like theirs, do we need to go to such great lengths to prepare for war? Sun Wukong really looked down on the Xia Empire. Well, no matter what, they are all envoys from an interstellar empire, and someone has to go to receive them, Li Qingyun said. You are the main god of our Shen civilization, and the other party is just an envoy. It is really inappropriate for you to come forward. Sun Wukong already understood what Li Qingyun meant. Don't worry about this matter, I will take care of it. After Sun Wukong finished speaking, he directly cut off the call with Li Qingyun. Li Qingyun, facing Sun Wukong's words, just smiled slightly. He had already told Sun Wukong, and Sun Wukong would naturally deal with it. As for how to deal with it, Li Qingyun did not intend to interfere. Because in his opinion, maybe this time Sun Wukong could bring him some surprises. And the fact was just as he guessed. After Sun Wukong hung up the call with Li Qingyun, he immediately summoned Liu Chuang and Sultan. Sun Wukong brought the two people and swaggered to the hall. Sun Wukong stood in front of the throne, while Liu Chuang and Sultan stood on his left and right. Soon, a Shen Mecha led Dao Jian in. Dao Jian entered the hall and thought he would see Li Qingyun, the main god of the super god civilization, but when he looked up, he saw a man, a monkey and a crocodile. These three people looked more fierce than the other. There was a clear murderous aura coming out of these three people standing there, which made people feel extraordinary just by looking at them. If it were an ordinary person, seeing Sun Wukong, Liu Chuang and Sultan here, he would probably be scared and tremble immediately. Dao Jian is not an ordinary person. As the most powerful warrior of the Xia Empire, his own strength is very strong. He has been in the universe for so many years and experienced so many wars. He has already seen all kinds of big scenes. Therefore, when facing Sun Wukong and the other three, although he was a little surprised, he could still easily calm down. Dao Jian, the envoy of the Xia Empire, comes to see the lord of the super god civilization, the God River. The Xia Empire bowed and saluted, which was his polite behavior. But then, he added, I just don't know why the lord of the God River doesn't want to see me, but let you three come here to receive me. Dao Jian's meaning was clearly that the super god civilization was not polite and was not polite enough to the envoy. You are just an envoy, how can you see our king just after you come? Sun Wukong knew what Dao Jian meant, but he also naturally explained his position of the super god civilization. We are not unreasonable people. On the contrary, we pay more attention to etiquette than you, Sun Wukong said. You are just a small envoy. As a superior country, we only need someone of equal status to receive you. Why do we need the Lord of Shin to meet you in person? Sun Wukong's words were reasonable and well-founded. Although Dao Jian was dissatisfied, he couldn't find any faults at the moment. However, he was still unhappy that he didn't see the person he wanted to see. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 439 The so-called Top 10 Powerful Men. You have a point, but I am the Chief Sergeant of the Sheer Empire, the most capable general of Her Majesty the Queen, and the strongest warrior of the Sheer Empire. I wonder what level you are at. Dao Jian began to show his strong side. It's not that he wants to be overbearing, but in the process of diplomacy, as an envoy, his every word and action represents his empire. Therefore, he must be neither humble nor arrogant, and show the dignity of the empire. Since Sun Wukong said that his level is not high enough and he can't meet Li Qingyun, Dao Jian must let Sun Wukong know that not everyone can come to meet him. Oh? Are you the strongest warrior of yours? Before Sun Wukong could speak, Liu Chuang asked back. I don't think you are that good with your small body. Could it be that your entire empire is a bunch of weak chickens? Suo Dun also spoke. Sun Wukong specially called these two people this time just to let them show Dao Jian's power. Otherwise, why not find a few people from the super god civilization to receive Dao Jian? Why not find those who are pretty and gentle, but these two fierce and evil ones? Humph. My Xia Empire is famous in the universe, and our warriors are famous for their strength. How can you despise us like this? Dao Jian snorted coldly, and the aura on his body suddenly released, which actually emitted a very strong energy. After seeing this, Sun Wukong and Liu Chuang were both slightly shocked. They didn't expect that Dao Jian's strength was not weak. Judging from the power released at this moment, the opponent's strength is at least not weaker than that of an ordinary third-generation super warrior of the divine body level, and perhaps the actual combat power is even stronger. In addition to the super god civilization, there are actually strong people with this strength in the universe, which is also rare and precious. However, although Sun Wukong and Liu Chuang recognize Dao Jian's strength in their hearts, they would not show it on the surface. Sun Wukong's real purpose is to make this sheer empire surrender. Even if it doesn't surrender directly, it will have to bow to the super god civilization and become a vassal state. Therefore, he must show his power today to let Dao Jian clearly realize how big the gap is between their sheer empire and the super god civilization. That's it? You, the strongest warrior, are just like this, Sun Wukong said disdainfully. With this level, any well-known person in the super god civilization can beat you. Sun Wukong's taunting skill was also maxed out. Can just anyone beat me? Then why don't you find someone to try with me? Dao Jian understood that this was Sun Wukong's deliberate provocation, but at this time, if he showed weakness, it would damage the reputation of their sheer empire, and he could never do such a thing. Liu Chuang, how about you try with him? Sun Wukong looked at Liu Chuang. Originally, he was planning to let Satan take action. But now, looking at Dao Jian's situation, if Thornton takes action, he may not be able to win. Okay, Liu Chuang said, and with a casual move of his right hand, he directly summoned the god-killing axe. This is the strongest person in your super god civilization, right? Dao Jian saw Liu Chuang and immediately questioned him. He had observed the scene of the super god civilization fighting with a god group. At that time, Liu Chuang blocked a group of gods with his own strength. In the super god civilization, Liu Chuang's strength is definitely the top one. If you think Chuangzi is too strong, I can play with you. Thornton summoned a pair of axes and stood up. You? Dao Jian hesitated when he saw Thornton. It's not that he thinks Thornton is strong or not, but Thornton's status in the super god civilization does not seem to be very high. In these years, the ranking of the strength of the super god civilization that has been spread in the universe, Thornton is not among the top 10. The strongest person in the super god civilization must be Li Qingyun, the lord of the divine river. Under Li Qingyun, the well-informed people in the universe also selected the 10 strongest people. Although the actual combat power of this ranking is unknown, the top 10 are still recognized by everyone. These 10 people are the god of death Karl, the king of the sky base Zai, the demon king Morgana, the angel matron Yan, the god of war Li Qingyun of the No Star, the fighting Buddha Sun Wukong, the goddess of death Hela, the Scarlet Witch Wanda, the Captain Marvel Carol, and the overlord of the universe Thanos. Most of them were suddenly brought back by Li Qingyun after disappearing for 2 years, and the remaining 4 were already well known in the universe. Hela and Thanos were both very powerful overlords in the past. Captain Marvel has been active in the universe for a long time between various planets, and once shocked the entire Kree Empire with her own strength. Needless to say, the Scarlet Witch inherited chaos magic. The power of this chaos magic itself is known to everyone in the universe who has a little ability. Dao Jian had just claimed to be the strongest warrior of the sheer empire, but now he wanted to challenge the strong men of the super god civilization, but he didn't even dare to challenge the 10 people in the first echelon. If this spread out, even if he won the battle with Satan, he would not have the slightest glory. In Dao Jian's eyes, among the 10 strong men, he was sure to win only Captain Marvel, Hela, and Thanos. Angel Yan and Morgana also had a certain chance. Apart from these 5 people, he didn't know the specific strength of 3 people, and these 3 people were Hezai, Wanda, and Sun Wukong. Hezai had too few shots, Wanda's chaos magic was extremely unstable, and Sun Wukong's ability was rather peculiar. As for the 2 people, Karl the god of death and Liu Chuang, they were the ones that Dao Jian thought he could never win. Only 2 of the 10 strong men of the super god civilization were here now, and Liu Chuang knew very well that it would be difficult for him to win in a fight. It seemed that he could only choose the fighting Buddha Sun Wukong, whose strength was still unknown. Since we have to fight the person who is responsible for receiving me this time. Dao Jian had already made up his mind, and he immediately expressed his thoughts. Fighting Buddha Sun Wukong, if you really want to test the strength of my Xia Empire, how about you fight me in person? Dao Jian locked his target on Sun Wukong, and the scene surprised Sun Wukong. He did not choose Liu Chuang, but chose himself. Did Dao Jian think that his strength was not as good as Liu Chuang? You are looking down on me. Sun Wukong knew that Dao Jian ranked him behind Liu Chuang, and he was angry. Chapter 440, he chose the strongest one. Why, you don't dare, Dao Jian challenged again. In his opinion, his choice was the most appropriate. Sun Wukong was also one of the top 10 strong men, and in Dao Jian's opinion, he was a challenger that suited his fighting style. Well, since you asked so, Sun Wukong did not expect that Dao Jian would choose him as his opponent in the end. Maybe it's because I didn't fight too many times, especially the time against Dormammu's invasion a year ago. Almost everyone fought, but I was the only one who stayed in the floating fortress and did not participate in the battle. Sun Wukong was actually a little depressed. Because he became the temporary person in charge of the super god civilization when Li Qingyun was away, he was often unable to go to participate even when facing a war. So he has rarely fought with others over the years. Now that he heard that Dao Jian chose him as his opponent, he felt that it was because he had not performed well enough and was looked down upon by others. Where are we going to compete? Dao Jian looked at Sun Wukong and asked. You can choose the location. Sun Wukong grabbed the air with his right hand, and the dark metal rod appeared in his hand. Then let's go to space, and then we can fight and hurt innocent people. Dao Jian knew very well that the battle between him and Sun Wukong would inevitably cause a very strong impact once it started. I'm afraid no one can accurately predict how much damage it will cause at that time. Maybe it will directly destroy the entire planet. Okay, after Sun Wukong finished speaking, he flew directly out of the hall and flew into space first. Seeing Sun Wukong doing so, Dao Jian followed suit. General Commander, Monkey Brother and Dao Jian have gone to outer space. They are preparing to start a competition. Liu Chuang sent a message to Li Qingyun and informed him of the current situation. Oh? That's worth seeing. After Li Qingyun finished speaking, he actually left the laboratory in an instant and was already in space when he appeared again. Almost the next second after Li Qingyun came out, many people began to appear in space one after another, such as Morgana, Angel Yan, Hezai and others, all of whom came through the wormhole. Even many superheroes in the super seminary flew out as soon as they heard the news. This was a contest between Sun Wukong and the strongest warrior of the sheer empire. They had not experienced any battles for almost a year. Now they could see such a duel between masters, which was also a good entertainment for them. Liu Chuang and Suat were the first to know the situation, but now they were the slowest to come, because before he came, he had been sending messages to other people. After learning the news that Sun Wukong and Dao Jian were going to compete, more people contacted Liu Chuang and Su Tan as soon as possible, wanting to know more detailed information from them. Dao Jian and Sun Wukong were already confronting each other in space. At this moment, Dao Jian was standing in space, and when he looked out, he immediately noticed Li Qingyun and others. The large group of onlookers around him shocked Dao Jian. He was shocked by the speed at which these people appeared, and the scene they were watching directly in space. You know, even in a powerful interstellar empire like the Sheer Empire, there are only a few people who can appear in space without protection. But here, there is a large group who can completely ignore the harsh environment in the universe. And the speed at which they came, almost half of them appeared instantly, and the other half could arrive at a very high flying speed. But in general, it took only a few seconds for these people to come. It took only a few seconds to fly from the Earth to space, which is faster than those spaceships driven by the curvature engine. What kind of terrifying existence is this super god civilization? Dao Jian was shocked, but he could only think about it in his heart and could not say it out loud. As an envoy, he must show the strength he should have, so when facing the power of Sun Wukong, he would propose such a condition to challenge him. Therefore, if he was shocked and scared because of seeing the ability of these people, then everything he did before would be in vain. Brother Monkey, come on, Li Qingyun shouted loudly. Go Wukong, come on, Su Xiaoli also shouted enthusiastically, cheering for the man in her mind. Come on, other people from the super god civilization also cheered for Sun Wukong at this moment. Isn't this in space? How can we hear what they say? Dao Jian was surprised and asked this question naturally. Just now, Lao Li transformed the space of this large area. He added air into it. Now it is actually like the environment on Earth, Sun Wukong answered, and Dao Jian also felt at this moment that this place was exactly the same as on Earth. I didn't see him do anything, how could he do it to such an extent? Dao Jian was shocked again. The strongest man of the Sheer Empire felt like a country bumpkin who had never seen the world after arriving in the super god civilization. No matter what he encountered, he had never encountered it before. As long as he wants, the entire universe can be controlled at will. It's just changing the environment in space. This kind of thing is nothing to him, Sun Wukong said with some disdain. He also saw that although Dao Jian showed so much strength when he came, showing that as an envoy of the Sheer Empire, he was unequal to their super god civilization. But in actual performance, Dao Jian lost some points. The foundation of your super god civilization is really strong. Dao Jian naturally admired the strength of the super god civilization, but his identity made him have to show his strong side. Otherwise, he would not challenge the people of the super god civilization here. Because, even if he won, he only defeated one of the top 10 strong men of the super god civilization. Others in the universe would not think that the Sheer Empire was really that strong. After all, he, Dao Jian, was already the strongest person in the entire Sheer Empire. Okay, the audience is already here. If you want to compete, let's start directly. Sun Wukong raised the dark alloy stick in his hand. He was ready to fight with Dao Jian. Seeing this, Dao Jian could only mobilize his own strength and create a faint curtain of light around his body. Chapter 441, Knowing Yourself but Not Your Enemy, It is Not Unfair to Lose. Dao Jian was ready, so Sun Wukong naturally did not hesitate. The dark alloy rod in his hand suddenly became longer and poked towards Dao Jian. Dao Jian had seen the battle between Sun Wukong and the God group. Although Sun Wukong's fighting power was not very strong at that time, he still saw some characteristics. Just like the dark alloy rod in front of him that can change size and shape. Facing the dark alloy rod poking at him, Dao Jian just slightly turned his body and dodged it. Then he grabbed the dark alloy rod with both hands and pulled it hard, trying to pull Sun Wukong in the opposite direction. Sun Wukong held the other end of the dark alloy rod and felt the pulling force from Dao Jian, and his brows were slightly frowned. From the perspective of strength alone, he could sense that Dao Jian's strength was not weak. The strength is not weak, no wonder he can be called the strongest warrior of the Sheer Empire, Sun Wukong exclaimed, and then he directly threw his hand, and a dark force on the dark alloy rod immediately burst out and passed to the end. Dao Jian held a dark alloy rod in both hands. When he tried to pull Sun Wukong up, he felt the dark force. He immediately felt a strong vibration in his hands. Dao Jian knew that the vibration was caused by the sudden burst of force. If he didn't let go, his hands would be paralyzed by the force. Then Sun Wukong would attack more fiercely, and he couldn't fight back. So Dao Jian let go of the dark alloy rod, and then suddenly raised his right foot and kicked it hard. Sun Wukong transmitted the dark force by shaking the dark alloy rod. After the force was transmitted, he also needed a stronger force to stabilize the dark alloy rod. At this moment, the dark alloy rod was kicked away, and Sun Wukong's movement rhythm was also disturbed, and began to move in the direction of Dao Jian's kick. Sun Wukong directly shortened the length of the dark alloy rod. As the dark alloy rod shortened, the force that was diverted was naturally easier to control. Buzz! 2 red lasers shot out from Dao Jian's eyes and hit Sun Wukong. Sun Wukong crossed his hands in front of him and blocked them directly. With his indestructible body, Sun Wukong's body defense ability is extremely high. Unless he uses a weapon of the god-killing martial arts level, ordinary attacks cannot destroy his defense at all. But at this moment, although he did not get pierced directly by the laser light he blocked, his arms felt a burst of high temperature after blocking it. This laser light has a thermal radiation effect. If you endure it for a long time, the super gene will be destroyed. Sun Wukong quickly determined the situation he was facing at the moment. Doppelganger. Sun Wukong suddenly opened his hands, and then in an instant, dozens of figures wearing dark alloy armor and holding dark alloy rods appeared in the surrounding space. These were the clones summoned by Sun Wukong. How could it be? Dao Jian looked at the dozens of Sun Wukong's clones that suddenly appeared, and he was immediately numb. When he saw Sun Wukong fighting with the gods, the other party clearly used the ability to grow bigger, which is the so-called law of heaven and earth. If he just made his body huge, he would not be afraid, because he was faster and stronger, and he could attack Sun Wukong by moving quickly and continuously bursting his strength. But now, Sun Wukong suddenly used an ability that was completely unfamiliar to him. Clone, which means that he is facing dozens of Sun Wukongs at this moment. Although their fighting power may not be as strong as Sun Wukong's original body, if these clones help Sun Wukong to attack together, the speed advantage will not be brought into play. Go! Sun Wukong pointed forward with his left hand, and dozens of clones immediately rushed up and started to fight against Dao Jian. Turn on the Dao Zhanshen support system to accelerate the autonomous combat ability of the clones and strengthen the attack power, Sun Wukong said, and almost at the same time, on Earth, in the laboratory of the Super God Academy, a large celestial computer began to emit bursts of light. Dao Zhanshen, this is the celestial computer that Li Qingyun and the God of Death Carl specially equipped for Sun Wukong. It will be transferred to Sun Wukong's own dark plane space later, but now it is still in the laboratory for the final upgrade test. However, this final upgrade test process does not affect Sun Wukong's ability to use it in advance at this moment. The combat effectiveness of the clone depends on the strength of the algorithm that controls it. If it is only Sun Wukong himself who is controlling it, then the combat effectiveness that the clone can burst out is at most to cooperate with Sun Wukong's main body to strengthen the combat effect. But now through the Dao Zhanshen system to strengthen it, the combat effectiveness of a single clone can even reach the combat effectiveness level of Sun Wukong's main body in normal form. Even if dozens of clones are controlled at once now, the combat effectiveness of these clones can be directly comparable to the level of a second generation or even third generation ordinary super soldier. At this moment, all these clones rushed towards Dao Jian, and their continuous attacks instantly made Dao Jian confused. So strong, these clones are so strong, Dao Jian was shocked. Although he was stronger than these clones, he could often blow away a clone with a random punch. But the problem was that he had just blown away one, and 3 or 4 of them came at him with sticks on the other side. Even though his body defense was extremely strong, the attacks of one stick after another made him very tormented. So, after suffering a few losses, he started to run away directly. At this moment, Dao Jian was using his high-speed movement to avoid being beaten by these clones. This Dao Jian is also unlucky. With his fighting style, if he faced a single strong warrior like Liu Qingyun and Suo Dun, he could still have some advantages with his ability, but he chose Monkey Brother. Li Qingyun saw the scene and fully understood the result. Judging from the initial contact between Sun Wukong and Dao Jian, the difference in strength between the two was not very large. Later, when Dao Jian released a laser to attack Sun Wukong, it could even be seen that Dao Jian was able to hurt Sun Wukong's divine body. But now, Sun Wukong has just released the power of clones, and Dao Jian can't resist. If Sun Wukong releases more other means later, Dao Jian will definitely be unable to resist. The result of this competition is no longer suspenseful. He is also stupid. At the beginning, Monkey Brother only planned to let Su Dun fight him, but he insisted on choosing Monkey Brother, Li Qingyun said. He chose his opponent based on your performance. When dealing with a god group before, Monkey Brother showed his ability to control the world and focused on pure power attacks. He thought he could rely on his own flexibility to win, but he guessed wrong. Monkey Brother's real strength lies in his endless fighting skills, not pure strength. In fact, you and Su Dun are pure power fighters. Li Qingyun had already read Dao Jian's thoughts, so he fully understood why Dao Jian made such a choice. With such a result, it can only be said that Dao Jian did not have enough information, which led to his passiveness. Chapter 442, Conquer Others with Virtue? Conquer them by beating them. Faced with a continuous beating of Sun Wukong's clones, even if Dao Jian tried his best to fight back, he was powerless. Dao Jian's ability is similar to that of DC Superman. This kind of physical performance has extremely high values, which makes him very powerful in all aspects, allowing him to be invincible in ordinary battles. But now, he is facing a super soldier whose combat power is not weaker than his. The clones summoned by this super soldier, although slightly inferior to him in strength and speed, have an absolute advantage in number. Moreover, these clones are indestructible. Even if they are completely smashed into pieces, they will quickly reassemble and become a new clone to continue to attack. In this case, even if Dao Jian is strong, he will eventually be exhausted. In fact, Sun Wukong's clones were not originally indestructible in this way. These clones made of dark alloy will also be damaged after being hit hard, and they need to be recycled and repaired after being damaged. But after Sun Wukong followed him, Li Qingyun referred to nanotechnology and upgraded these clones of Sun Wukong. If the dark alloy armor is transformed into nano-attributes, then even if it is broken or shattered, it can be reassembled according to the preset program, and naturally it will become indestructible. This indestructibility has raised the combat power of the clone to a higher level, and it is also the key to completely dragging Dao Jian down at this moment. I give up. Dao Jian stopped. He didn't want to escape anymore, and no matter how hard he struggled, he couldn't hold on for long. Give up now. Sun Wukong stopped the attacks of all the clones and came directly in front of Dao Jian. I still have the strength to fight, but in this situation, my persistence is meaningless, Dao Jian answered helplessly. My analysis is wrong. Your power is so strong that I have no ability to fight back in front of you. Dao Jian has begun to regret why he didn't choose Satan at that time. But at the same time, he was deeply afraid of the power of the super god civilization. This is just one of the top 10 strongest men in the super god civilization. Not only is he not the strongest Li Qingyun, he is not even the strongest among the top 10, but when he faced him, he was beaten without any chance to fight back. As the strongest man in the sheer empire, he lost so miserably. If there is a conflict between the sheer empire and the super god civilization, the other party does not need to mobilize many people at all. Just let this Sun Wukong go alone, and maybe they can completely suppress them. So, are you coming here to surrender on behalf of the sheer empire this time? Sun Wukong asked this question again. When he just met Dao Jian, he was just teasing, but now it was more like a question. I am just an envoy of the empire and I don't have this power. Dao Jian could only use this reason and quickly explain to Sun Wukong. Then what are you doing here? Sun Wukong asked again, and at the same time, the onlookers had begun to disperse. They all looked a little disappointed because they didn't see a battle that satisfied them. Originally, it was thought that the battle between Sun Wukong and Dao Jian would be very intense and exciting. But in the end, Sun Wukong only made 2 or 3 moves, and the most powerful warrior of the sheer empire was already defeated. If they had known this would be the result, they would not have come here. Wouldn't it be more meaningful to stay in their jobs, do their work, research, and exercise, etc. than to come here in vain? However, they all knew in their hearts that in today's universe, except for those gods or dimensional demons beyond the universe level, there was no one they could look up to. It was one thing that the fight was not exciting enough, but in the end, they had already known that the purpose of coming here was just to join in the fun. Dao Jian watched those people disperse and realized this situation. He realized that the arrival of his envoy was even just a dispensable excitement for the super god civilization. We have detected that in the past year or so, your super god civilization has been preparing for war on a large scale, So the Queen and the people in the parliament are afraid that you are going to attack us, so they let me find out the situation first. Dao Jian told the real purpose of his visit truthfully. Attack you? Do you think we need to do this? Sun Wukong asked back. You can defeat me with your own strength. To deal with our sheer empire, you don't need to prepare for war at all. Just sending 2 or 3 strong men is enough. Dao Jian now began to use honorifics when addressing Sun Wukong. You understand? Seeing Dao Jian like this, Sun Wukong was also very satisfied with his performance at the moment. At that moment, he waved his hand casually, and all the clones around him disappeared, and even the dark alloy rod in his hand was taken back. This was to completely lift the state of war preparedness, and intend to talk to Dao Jian simply as a way of receiving an envoy. What he did before was just to simply give Dao Jian a warning. When civilizations come into contact, they can't always be condescending, which will be very annoying. Dao Jian is, after all, a loyal guardian of the royal family of the Sheer Empire, and he is used to such things. When the Sheer Empire faced those small cosmic civilizations in the past, they also did such things. Next, Sun Wukong returned to the castle with Dao Jian, and the two sides formally began to talk with a seemingly equal attitude between civilizations. Dao Jian expressed his willingness to establish an alliance with a super god civilization, and also stated that the Sheer Empire would never have any hostile behavior against the super god civilization in the future. Sun Wukong naturally disagreed with these, because in the face of absolute strength, the Sheer Empire would not dare to have any improper actions against their super god civilization. What is said now is just a superficial reason, and this reason can also become the super god civilization at the level of the entire universe, and it can be recognized by more other civilizations. Their super god civilization does not want to be the kind of universe oppressor. They will not use strong means to rule like the angel civilization, and they will not directly destroy other civilizations like the Teodi Legion. This is a tradition of the Earth, or the Chinese civilization. Make yourself look kind to the outside world, maintain a crushing position in strength, and keep the main message that if you listen to me, I will be a country of etiquette, and if you don't understand the language, I also know a little bit about boxing. Chapter 443 The Strange Planet's Destruction. Dao Jian was completely defeated. The Sheer Empire then formally sent a proposal to the entire super god civilization to establish a civilization alliance. In this proposal, the super god civilization was directly called the superior state. Dao Jian was defeated by one of the so-called 10 strongest men of the super god civilization, and was defeated in a crushing manner, so the entire Sheer Empire is now more afraid of the super god civilization than before. In this case, as long as they can maintain peace with the super god civilization, let alone surrender, they will have to accept even if they have to cede land and pay compensation. The super god civilization naturally accepted these actions of the Sheer Empire with pleasure. They had no intention of launching an attack on an empire in the universe, but they also didn't want to see someone still acting high and mighty in front of them. After all, they are now legitimate and the most powerful civilization in the entire universe. Almost at the time when the super god civilization and the Sheer Empire formally established diplomatic relations, in a corner of the universe, a huge object the size of a planet was moving rapidly. This huge object, when passing a planet, will directly swallow up the entire planet, and then move on to the next one again. At the same time, at the moment when this planet was swallowed, a silver figure was heading towards the next planet at a faster speed. On Earth and in the floating fortress, the Super God Academy, which had been responsible for observing the entire universe, soon detected relevant information data in the universe. This huge celestial body that suddenly appeared has very powerful energy. Wherever it passes, other planets will be directly destroyed. This celestial body doesn't look like it was formed naturally. In the Super God Academy, Stark, Banner, Wang Haiming, and Shen Li were discussing. Today they were on duty, and they were the first to discover this situation. The nearby angel beacon only detected abnormal energy, but no accurate information was sent back, and after the planets in that area were destroyed, the angel beacon was also damaged, Wang Haiming said. This situation is obviously wrong. Maybe something special happened. We need to investigate it clearly, Chen Li gave her suggestion. Under the management of the current super god civilization, there should be no more such things in the entire universe that they cannot control the whole picture. Now that this kind of thing has occurred, all the situations must be clarified as soon as possible. Knowing yourself and your enemy will ensure victory in every battle. This is the truth that Li Qingyun had repeatedly emphasized to them a long time ago. Who is the closest to that area at present? Stark asked the auxiliary system of the Super God Academy directly. The Guardians of the Galaxy are the closest to that area at present, the auxiliary system of the Super God Academy replied. Contact the Guardians of the Galaxy immediately and ask them to go to the scene of the incident immediately to investigate. Stark gave the order, and the relevant information was immediately transmitted through the network system that connected all the people of the Super God civilization at the same time. After receiving this information, Star-Lord, Rocket and other members of the Guardians of the Galaxy who were sailing in the universe did not hesitate to turn around and fly over. With the influence of their Super God civilization in the universe now, plus the equipment they are equipped with on their own spacecraft, they did not hesitate at all. There was no such thing as being cautious. However, when they entered that area, they suddenly realized that this time the matter was much more serious than they expected. According to the records in the database, there was originally a planet with life at that coordinate, but when they arrived, they saw only a broken planet that had completely lost its vitality and was in pieces. There was no huge explosion, no devastating disaster that would affect the entire star system, but this planet seemed to be destroyed on the spot out of thin air. Who on Earth destroyed this planet like this? Star-Lord saw this scene and immediately identified it as man-made destruction. People? Can someone destroy a planet directly in this way? Rocket is a scientist, especially after joining the Super Seminary, he pays more attention to scientific analysis data. So when he saw the situation of the planet in front of him, he immediately understood that this was definitely not caused by ordinary people. Even the former Kree Empire destroyed planets directly with missiles. At that time, Li Qingyun also shattered a planet in an instant through the attack of high-powered weapons. When the planet was shattered, the explosion produced by its core would also form an effect of exploding everywhere. But now, the remains of this planet don't seem to have any signs of explosion. It looks more like a watermelon that has been smashed and torn apart. This situation will only occur after the internal energy is completely consumed. From the shape of the planet's remains, the other party seems to have moved in this direction. Gamora drew a route on the virtual projection screen. It was a route simulated and calculated based on the only prominent section of the planet's remains. Follow this direction, maybe we can find some clues, Gamora said as she looked at the drawn route. In that case, let's chase it and see. After Star-Lord finished speaking, he turned around and started chasing in this direction. However, when they started chasing, they found that even with their flying speed, they still couldn't catch up. But in the process of chasing, the traces of matter left in the starry sky clearly showed that there was indeed a huge object moving in the direction they simulated. The speed of the spacecraft is almost approaching the speed of light, but it still can't catch up. The opponent's moving speed may have exceeded the speed of light, and it is many times faster than the speed of light. Star-Lord was already shocked by the opponent's speed at this time. Apply for the use of the Super Seminary's celestial computer, calculate the spatial coordinates on this route, and prepare for a space jump. Only in this way can we find out the opponent's specific whereabouts in this process and investigate the real situation. At the same time, let the Super Seminary calculate whether there is anything that needs special attention on this route. Rocket Raccoon made a quick analysis and sent information directly to the Super Seminary. After Stark and others in the Super Seminary received this information, they naturally began to make arrangements immediately. At the same time, they have also realized that this time the matter is more troublesome than expected. They directly let the Super Seminary's auxiliary system report the relevant situation to Li Qingyun. Chapter 444, Devourer of Planets. Li Qingyun received the report from Stark and others, but he did not start to participate directly. Instead, he asked these people to continue according to their current procedures. Because the method used by Stark and others is already the most suitable, even if Li Qingyun is the one to do it, he will let them do it this way. Before determining what exactly happened, Li Qingyun did not need to directly send the super soldiers on the Earth side to go. For such a huge civilization, if every time something happened, the Earth side had to send strong people to go there in person, then how busy would they be? Stark and others received Li Qingyun's reply, and naturally continued to proceed step by step. Star-Lord got the authority and began to quickly calculate the space jump point. According to a rough area, he opened multiple wormholes in order to shorten the flight distance and reduce the time of pursuit. At the same time, the Earth side began to calculate whether there would be any particularly important targets involved on this route. After all this was done, Intelligence soon came. The Guardians of the Galaxy, who shuttled between wormholes, jumped out of the material area on that special route in the universe during the fifth crossing, which meant that they had exceeded the flight distance of that object. So after turning back for a distance, they finally determined the target they were looking for. It was a huge celestial body. There was a large amount of interstellar dust surrounding the celestial body. The remaining traces they saw when they were flying in space before were caused by these interstellar dust. And the core area of this huge celestial body has an extremely huge amount of energy. Even the celestial computer authority of the super seminary that they obtained could not calculate it. At the same time, the Earth calculated that if this huge celestial body continued to fly at this speed, it would reach the second administrative star of the super god civilization, Qingyun star, in half a month. Now, the entire super seminary was alarmed, because they had seen that a huge disaster was about to happen. Not to mention the problem of the existence of super strong energy in this huge celestial body. The scale of this huge celestial body alone, if it collided head-on with Qingyun star, would be enough to destroy the entire Qingyun star. In the living area of Li Qingyun's floating fortress, Li Qingyun, who was originally playing with Zhao King and Xiaoyan, frowned immediately after receiving the report from Stark and others in the Super Seminary. According to the information currently held by the Super Seminary, this huge celestial body is clearly one of the five gods, the planet Devourer. Although, among the five gods, the planet Devourer is the weakest one, because his energy can never be satisfied, he will always be in a state of hunger, resulting in a decrease in combat power. But this one, after all, is one of the five gods, and his power is even stronger than the previous two-dimensional demons. Notify Thanos and let him gather in Qingyun star to investigate and see if there are any abnormal conditions in the planet. Let him pay attention to a guy riding a silver surfboard. Li Qingyun directly gave orders to everyone in the Super Seminary, and when they heard Li Qingyun say this, everyone immediately understood that this time the matter should be very serious. I originally thought that after everything was ready, we could take a month or two to counterattack Dormammu and the god of the underworld, but I didn't expect it to come at this time. Li Qingyun sighed. He has now completed the preparations for the entire super god civilization and is currently resting. According to his plan, he intends to gather people in more than a month to attack the dark and chaotic realms. Unexpectedly, before they started to act, a planet devourer came here. Li Qingyun flashed and went directly to the castle hall of the floating fortress. Soon, many high-level people of the super god civilization also arrived quickly through wormholes and other means. The planet devourer, one of the five gods, appeared, and the next target was the second life planet in the core of their super god civilization. How could they not pay attention to it? Qingyun star is an extremely important place for our super god civilization. We must defend it no matter what. As soon as everyone gathered, Ariel stood up in the crowd. She was originally from Qingyun star, and she was a representative of the younger generation of Qingyun star. Now that Qingyun star was targeted by Devourer, one of the five great gods, she naturally wanted to show the importance of Qingyun star in the first place. I know how important Qingyun star is, and even if it is just an ordinary planet, I will never let it be destroyed. Li Qingyun knew what Ariel was thinking, but he had no intention of abandoning Qingyun star. Qingyun star was very important to Li Qingyun. After all, it was a planet named after him. At the beginning, Qingyun star existed as the capital star of the super god civilization. At that time, the Earth was not unified, and Li Qingyun had no intention of forcibly taking over the Earth. So many major industrial systems of the initial super god civilization were built on Qingyun star. Even the Super God Academy established a branch there, and the genius teenagers who gathered from many life planets all studied in that branch. Many young geniuses like Peter Parker on Earth are also on Qingyun star. The reason why Earth has become the core of the super god civilization is that Li Qingyun, Xion Binglian and most of the superheroes are from Earth and have an innate fondness for Earth. If not, Qingyun star would have long been the real capital of the super god civilization instead of the second administrative center. I'm sorry, I was too anxious. Ariel knew that he was too anxious this time, thinking that Li Qingyun might not be willing to be an enemy because he was one of the five great gods. But what Li Qingyun said now clearly showed that he had no intention of abandoning Qingyun star. This time I asked you to come here in order to gather people to deal with the devourer of planets. We have only one goal, to defend Qingyun star and drive the devourer of planets out of the scope of our super god civilization. Li Qingyun's words were no longer spoken to Ariel, but to everyone else. What exactly is this devourer of planets? Sun Wukong asked first. Although they all knew that this time a super large cosmic body was coming, and it was one of the so-called 5 great gods. But apart from that, they knew nothing about the devourer of worlds, so naturally they had to get the information clear first. Chapter 445 The Four Messengers. Planet Devourer represents the existence of balance among the 5 gods. He consumes the energy of the life planets in the universe randomly to maintain his own consumption needs, Li Qingyun explained. Planet Devourer is the weakest among the 5 gods because he is the only one that is visible. He is always hungry, which prompts him to constantly devour planets. However, his constant hunger also causes his energy level to be low, so it is impossible to completely destroy Planet Devourer, but it is not difficult to kill him. Isn't it impossible to destroy it? How can it be killed again? Liu Qingyun was a little confused. Planet Devourer can be killed, but if he is killed, his will be reborn somewhere in the universe, so he cannot be completely destroyed, Li Qingyun said. The 5 gods are all the will of the universe born at the beginning of the universe. As long as the universe is not destroyed, the 5 gods will not disappear. Even if they are killed, it is only temporary, Li Qingyun repeated it again. After hearing what he said, everyone nodded. The will of the universe, they are naturally one with the universe. The will not disappear until the universe is destroyed. This is naturally easy to understand. There is nothing to pay special attention to when dealing with Galactus. Before he arrives, we can mobilize powerful energy to destroy him with one blow, but before Galactus, there are several messengers of Galactus who need special attention. Messengers, everyone was puzzled when they heard this. Galactus has 4 messengers, namely Stardust, Flame Emperor, Tyrant, and Silver Surfer. Each of these 4 people has super strength. I'm afraid that the strength of a single person is no less than that of dimensional demons such as Dormammu and Hades. The moment Li Qingyun said this, the whole audience was in an uproar. No less than dimensional demons such as Dormammu and Hades. If these 4 people appear together, the threat is far greater than the war launched by the previous 2 dimensional demons. At in Galactus after these 4 people, then their super god civilization is afraid that even if they gather all their strength, it will be difficult to resist. If that's the case, we might as well give up Qingyun's star. Ariel was regretting asking Li Qingyun to protect Qingyun's star no matter what. The other party was a cosmic god, and it was only natural for him to devour the planet, not targeting their super god civilization. In this case, they only needed to hand over the planet, and the devourer of planets would naturally leave after devouring it, and the people of Qingyun's star just needed to withdraw in advance before the devourer of planets arrived. Anyway, with the current ability of the super god civilization, there was still half a month before the devourer of planets arrived, which was enough time for them to withdraw people and important resources. Now, Li Qingyun was definitely going to go to war with the devourer of planets, but the combat power of the devourer of planets was so strong that if they went to war with it, even if they could win, they would probably suffer heavy losses. Ariel, don't feel guilty, there was nothing wrong with your previous actions. Li Qingyun looked at Ariel and said. This is it. Ariel was shocked at first, but then he realized that as the main god of the super god civilization, Li Qingyun's ability to see through information was so strong that Li Qingyun could see what Ariel was thinking and the changes on his face. To deal with these 4 messengers, I don't plan to rely on the advantage of numbers. I wonder if anyone among you is willing to go and fight them one-on-one. Li Qingyun looked down and said what he was thinking. The opponent's combat power is not weaker than the dimensional demon god. You actually plan to let only one person fight against him? Stark subconsciously said what he was thinking. The opponent's strength is very strong, but our current strength is not weak either. I just don't know who has the confidence to dare to go and fight against him. Li Qingyun was planning to train his troops. He planned to let these top powerhouses in the super god civilization have a head-on confrontation with the 4 messengers under the devourer of planets. Isn't it just an envoy? I, Liu Qingyun, am willing to fight him. Liu Qingyun was the first to stand up. As the god of war of no star, there was no reason to be afraid of fighting. Since you are here in person this time, I can fight with you without any hesitation. I will go. Sun Wukong also came out. He was the one who wanted to fight the most, but at first he was still considering whether he needed to stay in the floating fortress. But then he thought that Li Qingyun was not going to other universes, so why should he stay here? You fought with Dao Jian last time, so this time we should go anyway. Angel Yan came forward. She had already thought about it. Now that she has the support of the celestial computer, it is time to recover to the peak combat power. How can she not fight a tough battle? The other side has 4 messengers. Even if you come, there is still one left. Why do you have to let me give up? Sun Wukong was a little unhappy. Why didn't Angel Yan let him fight to his heart's content when he finally had a chance to fight with a strong man? If there's only one left, there will not be enough for me and Hela to share. The one who spoke was Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel's strength has also been greatly improved. More importantly, seeing that 3 super soldiers have come out, how can their local superheroes be without one? So after Angel Yan spoke, she was about to step forward, and before she spoke, Hela winked at her and said, Hela, Lord of Shen, Kesa is also willing to challenge someone. Kesa walked out of the team. In the past, Kesa would not easily participate in the affairs of the super god civilization, but after the last battle with the Dark Lord Dormammu, she also liked the fighting atmosphere of the super god civilization. Now seeing everyone rushing to the stage, she naturally wanted to go to fight the messenger of the planet Devourer. Yan, Hela, you two don't have to participate in this event, Li Qingyun said. Why? Angel Yan and Hela asked back at the same time. Qilin is pregnant, and now is the time when she needs someone to take care of her. You two are sisters with her, so it's better to stay by her side and take care of her more at this time. Li Qingyun said so, but in fact, he planned to give this battle position to others. After all, these two are the mistresses of the super god civilization. It is better to let other warriors take on such a great merit. This time, the battle against the 4 messengers will be led by Wukong, Liu Chuang, Danvers and Thanos. And Kassadin will go to Qingyun Star to assist Thanos in defending Qingyun Star. Li Qingyun made the final arrangement, and as a result, Angel Yan and Hela, who originally wanted to say something, had to remain silent. As for Kassadin, she was the last one to speak, and she also understood that this time the incident happened on Qingyun Star, and Thanos was the person in charge of Qingyun Star. If Thanos was not allowed to take action on such a matter, he would not be happy. So, Kassadin had nothing to say. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 446 Hand in Hand, let's go to see eternity together. Li Qingyun made arrangements, and Sun Wukong, Liu Chuang, Captain Marvel, and Kasa immediately crossed the Great Insect Bridge and headed for Qingyun Star. Everyone in the main hall had left, but Li Qingyun, who returned to the back hall, talked to Zai again. You let Danvers and Thanos fight against 2 messengers. This is to maintain the face of the local superheroes, but with their strength alone, can they really fight against a messenger alone? Zai and Li Qingyun had already been in sync for a long time, and she naturally understood why Li Qingyun made such arrangements. For a long time, almost all major events have been carried out by you people who came with me from the Super Gods universe. Over time, these local superheroes have actually suffered a lot of blows in their hearts. Li Qingyun didn't really care about these things at the beginning, because they were all from the same civilization and were all under his command, so naturally whoever was capable would take on the heavy responsibility. But during the more than 1 year of preparations, because he had free time, Li Qingyun discovered some problems that he had not noticed before. That is, in the process of civilization development, those superheroes gradually lost their motivation, and many of them no longer wanted to make themselves stronger. Li Qingyun could actually understand why they had such thoughts. Now that the super god civilization has become very stable, those people in the super god civilization no longer have that sense of crisis. Even if there are huge threats like the dimensional demon, they can't deal with opponents at this level. With Li Qingyun leading many super warriors in the super god universe, any opponent will be blocked by them outside the super god civilization. In the case that such small things are not threatening to them, and they can't help with big things, it is natural to have negative emotions. As the main god of the super god civilization, Li Qingyun naturally doesn't want to see his warriors have such a mentality. Moreover, Sun Wukong and other super warriors are just guests after all. Whether they will return to the super god's universe in the future or go into seclusion with him is unknown. In the end, it is still necessary to let these local superheroes of the Marvel universe carry the banner. So after the situation today, He directly sent Captain Marvel and Thanos to fight, in order to let these superheroes realize that they are not insignificant. Your consideration is correct, but this matter is a big deal after all. If they make mistakes when fighting those messengers, it may cause very serious consequences. Hizai knew what Li Qingyun was worried about, but at this time, he still had to ensure safety. Hearing what you said, we need to make some arrangements and prepare a backup for them, Li Qingyun said, and began to think about how to deal with it. Carl, Li Qingyun raised his head and called out the name of the god of death. Carl. What's the matter? Carl replied. Go to Qingyun Star secretly. If everything goes well with Wukong and the others, there is no need to let anyone know your whereabouts. If there is any mistake, you can take action to control the situation. The god of death Carl, his strength is second only to Li Qingyun in the super god civilization, and no one has been able to shake it so far. When Li Qingyun was going to deal with the devourer, it was most appropriate to let the death god Carl pay attention to the situation on Qingyun Star. Yes, I'll go now. Although the death god Carl didn't understand Li Qingyun's thoughts at the moment, he still did what Li Qingyun ordered. In addition, if he really wanted to understand the cause and effect of things like this, it would naturally not take much thought. However, with his personality, he didn't care about anything other than research, so he naturally wouldn't spend any time on it. Well, if the death god Carl goes there shouldn't be any accidents, Hizai nodded and said. Although the four messengers are very strong, these warriors of our super god civilization are not weak either, especially now that the astronomical computers have been built. It will naturally be easier to deal with them, Li Qingyun said. The key issue now is mainly on Devourer of Planets. The other party is one of the 5 great gods, and his status in the universe is extremely high. If you don't know the existence of the gods in advance and have no intersection with them, you may not care so much and just attack directly, but since you already know the 5 great gods, and even have contact with a life tribunal and eternity, if you attack directly without any scruples, I'm afraid it will attract the hostility of other gods, Hizai analyzed. Do you mean that you want me to find eternity again? Li Qingyun looked at Hizai and asked. Since you have seen eternity once, you naturally know where to see him again, and it is not difficult for you to make this trip. It is naturally the safest to meet him and tell him about this matter. Hizai really wanted Li Qingyun to talk to eternity. It's not that he needs to be afraid of eternity and other gods, but doing so will prevent those gods from finding any faults. Okay, I understand what you mean, so it's okay to meet eternity again. Li Qingyun knew that Hizai was thinking about himself, so he naturally had no objection to this. But, are you interested in going with me? Li Qingyun asked. This, Hizai hesitated. Eternity, one of the 5 great gods, if you want to talk about interest, Hizai is naturally interested in him. But after all, he is one of the 5 great gods, and not everyone can see him. Let's go, I'll go with you. After Li Qingyun finished speaking, he grabbed Hizai's hand and pulled him to the wormhole that opened next to him. Hizai didn't expect Li Qingyun to be so direct, and when she saw Li Qingyun grabbing her hand, she couldn't help but blush. Even though the two of them had already been frank, she was still moved by the fact that he took her to see the most powerful god in the universe without hesitation, just because of her slight interest. Just when Li Qingyun took Hizai to find eternity, Sun Wukong and others had already joined Thanos on Qingyun Star. Thanos had received Li Qingyun's order before, and he had already begun to search for abnormal phenomena on the planet, and he quickly found some abnormalities in this search. Now seeing Sun Wukong and others coming, and learning of Li Qingyun's arrangement, he naturally accepted it with pleasure, and discussed with the other 4 people how to deal with the 4 messengers of the Devourer of Worlds. Chapter 447. Don't worry, I won't block the spring. Somewhere deep in the starry sky in the universe, Li Qingyun took Hizai's hand and walked out of the wormhole, and in front of them, an invisible door was opening. Li Qingyun was going to see eternity, and eternity could sense it. Because Li Qingyun had met eternity before, and now Li Qingyun's strength has far exceeded the level of the dimensional demon god, so he wanted to see eternity, and eternity would not refuse. What's more, the purpose of Li Qingyun's search for eternity this time was because of the relationship with the Devourer of Planets. Entering this invisible space door, the two came to a silent starry lake, and in the middle of the lake, there was a human figure like a starry sky. Long time no see, Li Qingyun greeted. Hizai, who was standing aside, did not speak, but just quietly looked at the person in front of him who could not see his face, but only saw the appearance of the starry sky. I could understand why eternity looked like this. As one of the 5 wills of the universe, eternity is just an ideology that exists in the universe. As an ideology, it is normal that it does not look like an ordinary human. Our lifespans are endless. A mere 1 or 2 years is just a moment in our eyes. How can it be a long time? Yang Heng's voice came, but he felt that the content of Li Qingyun's greeting was inappropriate. It's just a way of greeting. Instead of saying long time no see, could it be that you and I don't like each other? Li Qingyun said. Your human way of communication is not suitable for me, Yang Heng replied. Is your purpose of coming here because of devouring stars? Yang Heng asked. Yes, his current target has locked on a life planet in my super god civilization. As the main god of super god civilization, I can't let him destroy this planet, but if I kill him directly, I'm afraid you gods will have opinions, Li Qingyun replied. With your personality, you won't think so. I guess it's because of the advice given by this angel that you came here. Yang Heng has learned a lot about Li Qingyun, especially when Li Qingyun entered the vision of the gods. After Yang Heng met him once, he traveled through the long river of time and saw many things about Li Qingyun in the past. After such a detailed understanding, Yang Heng was naturally able to understand Li Qingyun's habits and style of doing things. I am very happy that you can come with him this time, Yang Heng said this to Hizai. Because Hizai's persuasion of Li Qingyun can be said to have given them, the gods, great respect, Yang Heng naturally has a great favor for those who respect him. At least compared to Li Qingyun, Hizai is much easier to get along with. It is my honor to make Yang Heng, the great god transformed by the will of the universe, happy. Hizai only spoke at this moment and talked to Yang Heng. Yet, Yang Heng agreed, but didn't say anything more. As the will of the universe, he is still not very good at such human exchanges with others. Swallowing stars and devouring life planets is what he would do originally. You defending your own planet and rising up to resist is also part of natural development. Yang Heng put his attention back to the main issue of Li Qingyun's visit this time. In fact, in the multiverse, there have been many attempts to resist Galactus, most of which failed, but there have also been successes, but whether it is a failure or success, even if Galactus is killed, it is part of the development of the universe. Eternity, infinity, or even other gods will not interfere in this matter. What eternity said at this moment actually showed his position. As the 5 great gods of the universe, each of these gods has its own meaning of existence and their own style of doing things. The 5 great gods will not interfere in other people's affairs for no reason. Even if they sometimes interfere in some things because of interest, they will not cause too much impact. For example, sometimes death will take a fancy to some special people and give them the ability to be immortal or take them away directly, but this is only for some people or even a certain person, and will not directly affect a civilization, let alone the entire universe. In addition, the 5 great gods will not interfere with each other. They will only be responsible for the areas they are responsible for. If you say so, I will do it without any scruples. Li Qingyun was waiting for eternity to say this. This time, when he faced the arrival of Galactus, he originally planned to kill him. Now he came here only because of Hizai's suggestion. Now that Yang Heng has no objection, he naturally has no more scruples. As long as you are not specifically targeting him, just chase him and kill him. Yang Heng's meaning is also very clear, that is, you can't directly target Galactus. If you just killed him, and after seeing him resurrect, you chased him and killed him again, don't do this. After all, Galactus is also one of the 5 great gods. He will be reborn after death. If he is always blocked at the resurrection point to be killed after rebirth, it will be too embarrassing for the 5 great gods. You can rest assured about this. I won't block the spring water. Li Qingyun understood Yang Heng's meaning and made a guarantee immediately. After all, he is one of the 5 great gods. Even if Galactus is the last one among the 5 great gods, he is still one of the 5 great gods. If he really blocked the spring water to kill Galactus, then the 5 great gods would intervene even if they didn't want to get involved. Because this approach is equivalent to grabbing the collars of the 5 gods and slapping them in the face. In this case, you go now, Yang Heng said, and a gentle force was born, pushing Li Qingyun and Hizai out of the eternal domain. After Li Qingyun and Hizai came out, the open space door closed and disappeared completely. Yang Heng had already left, and Li Qingyun and Hizai naturally returned to Earth. After ensuring that other people from the 5 gods would not get involved, Li Qingyun naturally did not have to worry about his actions. He immediately told Li Zion and asked her to help pay attention to other situations in the super god civilization, and then set off directly to the universe. Li Qingyun had to prepare to attack the Devourer of Planets. This Devourer of Planets, which is the size of a planet, is one of the 5 gods. It still takes some effort to kill it. But before that, he still needs to wait for Sun Wukong and others on Qingyun Star to defeat the 4 messengers of the Devourer of Planets. Chapter 448 Awakening. In the branch of the Super God Academy on Qingyun Star, Thanos, Sun Wukong, Liu Qingyun, Captain Marvel and Kesa are gathering in the command hall. Peter Parker, Spider-Man, Ariel, Michelle, Ned and other young students of the Super God Academy are also here at this time. The results of our current search show that only one of the 4 messengers under the command of Galactus has come here, Thanos said, and a virtual projection began to appear in front of everyone. It was a guy with a body as silver as Mercury. He stepped on a silver surfboard and traveled around the planet at a very fast speed. We have analyzed the energy in him. It is an extremely powerful cosmic energy. If we talk about its scale, I am afraid that the energy contained in all the star systems of the entire super god civilization is not as good as his. This is the result of Thanos' analysis through the celestial computer of the Super God Academy. If the opponent really has such a large scale of energy, I am afraid it will be difficult for us to defeat it. Captain Marvel listened to what Thanos said and expressed her opinion on this. The energy he possesses does not represent his true strength. Sun Wukong did not think it was so terrifying. Brother Monkey is right. Super soldiers like us can get energy support from thousands of stars through astronomical computers, but this does not mean that we can blast out all the energy in one go, Liu Qingyun also said. The amount of energy depends on the amount that can be released at one time during the battle, not how much it has. Thanos has much more life experience than Captain Marvel, so he also understands this truth. Oh, Captain Marvel nodded suddenly. In fact, she herself had a similar experience, but she had never figured it out. At the beginning, she had a brief fight with Li Qingyun. At that time, she was obviously very powerful, but she was beaten without any ability to fight back in front of Li Qingyun. She had always thought that Li Qingyun's energy was much stronger than hers. But later, as Li Qingyun returned with many super soldiers from the Super God universe, she found out after several battles that Li Qingyun's real power at that time might not be stronger than hers. Think about it, in the current Super God civilization, she was rated as one of the top 10 strong men, and this ranking was recognized by the Super God civilization. But in the Super God civilization, there are many super warriors with 3 generations of divine bodies, such as Satan and Angel Chase. According to the description of super warriors in the Super God Academy, the 3 generations of divine bodies are higher than the super gene state of Li Qingyun at that time, but Li Qingyun at that time could easily crush her, and now she is stronger than these super warriors with 3 generations of divine bodies. She didn't think about this problem seriously before, but now she suddenly reacted after hearing what Sun Wukong and Liu Qingyun said. Her energy level has not changed, only her fighting style has changed. In terms of hard power, when facing other enemies in the universe, Captain Marvel is well deserved as one of the top 10 strong men in the Super God Academy. But if you really want to fight, there are still some super warriors in the Super God civilization who can beat her. For example, Angel Chase, Angel Ling and the like. If you can't beat her head-on, you can use their wormhole technology, void technology, etc. to cleverly avoid her strengths and attack her weaknesses. Pure strength has never been a measure of combat effectiveness, especially when facing super warriors. Regarding this guy on the silver surfboard, what is the analysis of the Super God system on him? Captain Marvel asked. She finally began to think about how to fight like a super soldier. As for the Super God system she mentioned, it was the celestial computer system used by the Super God Academy and even the Super God civilization. Different from the personal exclusive celestial computers used by Hizai and Morgana, the public channels of the Super God Academy and the Super God civilization also have a celestial computer to provide computing support. And the celestial computer was directly named after the Super God. According to the analysis, this messenger is the Silver Surfer. His power comes from the silver surfboard on his feet. If he can be knocked off the surfboard, his power will be invalid. Thanos briefly stated the results of the analysis. So, who'll deal with him now? Sun Wukong looked at the others. Knowing the power status of the Silver Surfer and his weaknesses, it is time to decide who will fight. When they came, they specifically fought for an opportunity to deal with these messengers. Moreover, each person can only fight one. This Silver Surfer is obviously very good at flying and has a very fast speed. Why don't you let me go? Captain Marvel stood up. Now she finally figured out her shortcomings in the battle, so she wanted to take advantage of this time to prove whether her guess was correct. If she fights according to this idea, how much strength can she exert? Sun Wukong, Li Qingyun and Thanos looked at each other, and then nodded silently. Okay, then you go. I will provide you with his detailed coordinates and information, Thanos said. Okay, Captain Marvel turned around and walked out of the house. After reaching the door, she immediately released the energy in her body, forming a burst of light around her body, and then soared into the air. She flew to the coordinate point pointed out by Thanos to her and rushed towards the Silver Surfer. At this moment, on the sea surface of Qingyun Star, Silver Surfer was traveling at a very fast speed. He was looking for the right coordinates and preparing to break through the surface to prepare a foothold for the arrival of Galactus. The purpose of the Devourer of Planets coming here is to devour all the energy of this living planet. If he needs to drill holes by himself when devouring, it will naturally take a lot of time. But the hungry Devourer of Planets is too lazy to waste any energy, so every time he will let the Silver Surfer go to scout and prepare a foothold in advance. After all this is arranged, the other three messengers will also arrive. They will build a huge base at these coordinates to provide further convenience for the Devourer of Planets to devour the energy of the planet. At the same time, their existence is also to eliminate some unnecessary troubles in advance. For example, those superheroes with powerful powers on this planet wielding destructive weapons with amazing destructive power will be found and eliminated by them in advance. Chapter 449, Confrontation with Silver Surfer. Silver Surfer was looking for the next coordinate point, and he was about to go there to open the passage. But just as he was moving forward, a glowing figure appeared in front of him, approaching at a speed very close to his. Silver Surfer has been rampant in the universe for a long time. When he went to those planets that were about to be destroyed, he had faced resistance from local strongmen countless times. But no matter which time, the result was the same. The rebels on those life planets would be easily defeated by him, and they could only accept the arrival of the Devourer of Planets in helplessness, and then accept the time of destruction. There were some smart ones, who knew that they could not fight against the Devourer of Planets, so they would concentrate their resources at the first time, build a large number of spaceships with as many residents as possible, and escape from the planet that was about to be destroyed. But, no matter what, Silver Surfer would not intervene. He would not remind these residents to escape, nor would he show mercy to those who tried to resist. So, facing Captain Marvel who was flying at the moment, he just pretended not to see it and continued to fly on his own. How could you ignore my presence? Captain Marvel saw Silver Surfer's actions from afar, and immediately raised his right hand, condensed a ball of golden light on his fist, and hit Silver Surfer in the face. The ball of light landed on Silver Surfer's head, but it dissipated instantly. Not only did it not cause any damage to Silver Surfer, it did not even hinder his flying speed at all. Seeing that Silver Surfer was about to collide head-on, Captain Marvel did not recklessly use his head to collide with the opponent like before, but turned sideways to temporarily avoid it. As the analysis shows, his power level is extremely high. Captain Marvel directly transmitted this information back to the Super Seminary branch on Qingyun Star, letting Sun Wukong, Thanos and others know. From the information read by the Super God system, his goal is to open a passage leading to the underground near the equator. If this passage is opened, it will be enough to cause damage to the planet itself. Even if the damage is not great, as Guardians, we cannot let this happen. Thanos' words meant to remind Captain Marvel that she must stop Silver Surfer no matter what and ensure that he cannot do anything to destroy the ecological environment of this planet. I understand, I will stop him directly at sea, Captain Marvel said, and then chased after him. She volunteered to come to deal with these messengers of the Devourer of Planets. Now that she is the first to appear, if she fails to win the first victory against Silver Surfer, then she will lose face when she goes back. Silver Surfer, who is already flying in front, was close to the coordinate point he was looking for, but the guy who just blocked his way caught up again. This situation made Silver Surfer's action pause slightly. He was like a robot without emotions now, but even as a robot he understood that if Captain Marvel came over, his plan to build a passage to the center of the Earth would be blocked. Stop what you are doing, or I will fight back. Silver Surfer turned around and looked at Captain Marvel who was catching up quickly. I should be the one saying this, Captain Marvel said so. She was the guardian now, and Silver Surfer was the invader. The culprit who was destroying the planet with his actions. This is God's goal, you can't stop it. If you leave now, you may be able to save some lives. Silver Surfer was now executing God's will. God? This is not the first time we have faced God. If we were to give in or escape, our super god civilization would have ceased to exist long ago. What Captain Marvel said at this moment was really not wrong at all. Those who came from the city of Almighty once claimed to be gods, but were beaten to pulp by Li Qingyun alone. Later, another group of gods came. They called themselves the celestial gods and the maintainers of the order of the universe. But in the end, the super god civilization organized all its forces to fight against them. In the end, the celestial gods compromised and withdrew from the area where the super god civilization was located with their people. Although a god who is more advanced than the celestial gods has come and is called one of the 5 great gods, after the previous experiences, who among the people of the super god civilization would really be afraid of them? The idea of fighting between humans and gods seems to have been deeply rooted in the spirit of the entire super god civilization under the influence of Li Qingyun, whether it is super soldiers, superheroes or ordinary people. In this case, I can only clear you the obstacle. After the Silver Surfer finished speaking, he suddenly raised his right hand, and a silver laser shot out from his hand immediately. Captain Marvel chose the same action as the Silver Surfer at that time. She did not dodge, but stood directly in place, mobilizing the energy in her body to form a layer of protection around her body. Bang! The light fell on Captain Marvel, and Captain Marvel just shook her body slightly, and then the power was completely removed. Huh? Silver Surfer was obviously a little surprised. In all these years, there has never been anyone who can withstand his attack head-on like this. Don't be arrogant. When his laser hit you just now, the energy in your body fluctuated for a moment. Obviously, his power is greater than yours, Thanos reminded him quickly. They were behind him, and they had been seeing Captain Marvel's situation clearly through the super god system. I know. After Captain Marvel finished speaking, the light on her body flashed again, and the binary star form was fully developed. Head-to-head confrontation is not a full display of strength. I already understand this principle, Captain Marvel thought so in her heart, and she suddenly rushed forward, rushing towards Silver Surfer. When Silver Surfer saw Captain Marvel rushing towards him, he immediately clenched his fists and greeted Captain Marvel with a serious attitude. Being able to withstand his attack head-on, Captain Marvel has proved her strength. When facing such an opponent, Silver Surfer will naturally not underestimate the enemy. So, on this sea, the two began a new round of impact. Both of them burst into extremely strong states, and every time they attacked with a fist, they would burst out with very strong energy, causing a violent explosion. The entire ocean began to shake at this moment, and circles of waves were spreading in all directions. Even the entire Qingyun star began to shake during the battle between the two. The battle between the two most powerful superheroes in the Marvel Universe was so powerful. Chapter 450, I'm hitting your weakness. Start the first level disaster defense command. All students of the Super God Academy will be mobilized immediately. Keep an eye on global data and repair the damage inside the planet in time. Thanos gave an urgent order, and everyone in the Super God Academy branch immediately entered an emergency state. Ariel, Peter Parker and others all entered their respective control positions and began to pay close attention to the global situation. With the ability of the current super god civilization, it is easy to control the natural factors of the planet. Even reshaping and creating a planet is not a difficult task for them. Therefore, in the face of such a disaster that affects the entire planet, as long as they pay close attention, they can still repair it quickly even if they mobilize energy for repair. However, all of this is based on the premise that these damages do not occur in a one-time large-scale outbreak. If the damage that can blow up the entire planet occurs at once, they will not be able to repair it no matter how hard they try. Danvers, pay attention to controlling the impact range of the battle. If the entire planet is blown up at once, our protection operation will fail, Sun Wukong reminded, and Captain Marvel, who was fighting in front, subconsciously stepped back a few steps and looked at the waves around. Don't be too restrained. The opponent's state should be similar to yours, and he doesn't want to destroy the entire planet directly. Sun Wukong knew that his reminder would probably make Captain Marvel afraid to act rashly, so he analyzed the situation for her again. Understood, Captain Marvel replied. Silver Surfer's goal is to make this planet a food for Galactus, so naturally he can't blow up this planet directly. So although Silver Surfer's previous attack was strong, he also paid attention to controlling the impact on the surrounding environment. He would control the intensity of the attack directly to the ground or inside the planet in time. "It seems that I have to defeat you as soon as possible," Captain Marvel said. "Your strength is not as good as mine," Silver Surfer said confidently. "Yes, my strength is indeed not as strong as yours," Captain Marvel did not refute, but her fighting spirit seemed to be even stronger than before. "But who said that strength represents everything in a fight?" Captain Marvel said, and her body suddenly shot out like a bullet. Her fist, with the power of thunder, smashed directly at the Silver Surfer in an unstoppable manner. Seeing Captain Marvel suddenly attack like this, the Silver Surfer was also shocked, and immediately crossed his hands in front of him, trying to block Captain Marvel's fierce attack. However, Captain Marvel's punch came hard, but when it was still more than 10 centimeters away from Silver Surfer, the fist suddenly turned downward and smashed towards the surfboard on Silver Surfer's feet. This time, the surfboard was smashed directly to the sea surface by Captain Marvel's fist. Under the powerful energy impact, it fell directly into the deep sea and fell towards the bottom of the sea. All of Silver Surfer's power comes from the Silver Surfer's surfboard. Now that the surfboard was unexpectedly punched away by Captain Marvel, Silver Surfer's body immediately lost support and the ability to float, and he was about to fall towards the sea. But the next moment, Captain Marvel raised his hand and punched Silver Surfer, who was still crossing his arms in front of him. Silver Surfer, who had no power, flew out like a cannonball under Captain Marvel's punch, and then fell hard on the sea thousands of meters away. He floated hundreds of meters like a skipping stone, and finally flew to the beach of a small island, and then stopped. Moreover, under such a strong attack, Silver Surfer fainted directly. He was not killed by Captain Marvel's punch, which was the result of Captain Marvel's mercy. Captain Marvel saw Silver Surfer fainted, and he was not in a hurry to find him. Instead, he flew into the sea first, came to the bottom of the sea and picked up the silver surfboard. After getting the surfboard and picking up the unconscious Silver Surfer by one hand, Captain Marvel returned to the Super Seminary branch. This surfboard is very special. It contains extremely powerful energy. We have to seal it up first, Captain Marvel specifically instructed when handing the Silver Surfer to Spider-Man. "Don't worry, I will handle it properly." Spider-Man took the surfboard and walked directly to the storage room of the Super Seminary branch with it. There will be special equipment there to manage and protect the surfboard so that it cannot be touched by anyone. Send him to the infirmary to see how serious his injuries are, but remember to take protective measures to prevent him from hurting people after he wakes up. Captain Marvel handed Silver Surfer to Ariel again. Yes, Ariel agreed, and the two Qingyun Star staff members behind her stepped forward, took out the stretcher and carried Silver Surfer to the infirmary. After arranging the surfboard and Silver Surfer, Captain Marvel returned to the command center and returned to Thanos and others. "Well done," Sun Wukong and others all gave her a thumbs up. "When fighting, we no longer choose to simply fight head-on, but give priority to how to play to our own advantages and attack the opponent's weaknesses at the first time. This way of fighting can maximize our own strength and weaken the opponent at the same time," Keisha said. She was born as a top bounty hunter in the Super God universe. As a bounty hunter, when performing tasks, she pays attention to the smallest cost in exchange for the greatest victory. As long as the opponent can be killed and the task can be completed, any method and means are acceptable. Now I really understand why you super soldiers are so powerful even though your energy level is not very high, Captain Marvel sighed, thinking of the time when he faced Li Qingyun and was easily suppressed by Li Qingyun. He felt that he was so stupid before. Fighting is fighting, and fighting is about killing the enemy effectively. Only when fighting in a competition or a ring will you fight with others in a disciplined manner with your fists. Do you know what is the most useful weapon for us to deal with powerful super soldiers? Li Qingyun asked. God Killer number 1 bullet, Captain Marvel answered. Yes, it is God Killer number 1, Li Qingyun said, and at this moment, he couldn't help but recall the situation when the super soldiers of the Xiaongbing Company participated in the battle for the first time. At that time, they were facing the pioneer flagship of Teoti. Reina could withstand the laser cannon of the Teoti flagship, and the shells couldn't hurt her, but a God Killer number 1 bullet made Reina scared. This is the special nature of the Super God War. It is targeted at you and hits your weaknesses. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.